And we're live. Thank you, everybody, for watching this. If you're watching on YouTube, great. If you're watching on Bitchute, I will be posting this later to Bitchute. And that reminds me, I forgot to do something. Record. So, today we're going to be talking about the issue that's been going on the last few days with Steven Crowder and Carlos Maza. For those of you that don't know, bear with me just a minute, I'll talk about it. For those of you that do know and are sick of it ad nauseum, you can mute me for a little bit. I'll figure out something else to attract your attention. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry, but some people need the background.
Exactly. So, Carlos Maza works as a researcher and actor, I guess is the best way to put it, or journalist, however you want to place it. I don't really call him a journalist, but just for brevity's sake, we'll call him a journalist. He does videos on a site called Vox.com, Vox.com, and their YouTube channel. One of his main shows is called Strike Through. And after his most recent Strike Through video last week, I think it was, entitled Why You're Still Watching Fox News If You're Not Watching Fox News, I think is what it was, or something along the lines. That's the premise of it. He got mad that Steven Crowder did a rebuttal video on there and started calling him names. One of them specifically was a lispy gay Mexican.
But he does speak with a lisp. He is openly homosexual, and he is open about his Mexican descent.
Yep.
So what's the problem?
Steven Crowder said mean things. So I have up Carlos Maza's Twitter account. I'm not going to go scrolling through all of the week worth of stuff here because it really is just him and his fan base. There are some people that actually I don't know if he retweets or the comments get passed through somehow, but I've seen some things where it has been a little negative towards him, but whatever. As you can see here, Vox Adpocalypse, we're going to get into a little bit more about that in just a moment. If I was sharing my screen, it would help. I'm not used to Hangouts anymore. Let's try that again. So here's Carlos Maza's Facebook page. I like the handle at Gay Wonk.
And then gets offended when people call him gay?
No, but he's a self-ascribed Marxist pig, thinks Tucker Carlson is a white supremacist, and he uses the same handle at Instagram. Oh, he even has his own webpage. Go figure. Anyways, for those of you that don't know, Vox.com, well, I think it was about 2-3 years ago, was bought out, or invested, I should say. Invested by NBC Universal, Comcast, that big old corporation, whoever the parent company is of it all. For the something of about $220 million. And apparently they haven't yet seen a profit.
Gee, I wonder why.
Now, really? Go ahead.
Well, what's that saying? Go woke, go broke?
Pretty much. And if people haven't figured that out, I don't know if they ever will. But anyways, long story short of it, Carlos Maza, after Steven Crowder's rebuttal video, went onto Twitter and voiced his concern in something like 20-something tweet thread about how Crowder says mean things, but he's not mad at Crowder. He is talking about YouTube not supporting the LGBT community, not supporting the LGBT content creators, etc., by allowing people like Steven Crowder and his fan base, his radical fan base, to say hurtful things. Now, I don't know about you, Jared, but I grew up in a day when, we used the saying quite liberally, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Well, as I've been pointing out to a few people offline, when you have an emotional reaction to what someone else says, you you as the person listening and having the reaction are quite literally giving up your agency, giving up your own control of the situation to the other person.
Yep.
The only person who has supreme authority over how you do or do not react to anything, any situation, commentary, what have you, is yourself.
Right. And that's the biggest thing is I if I feel that I'm gonna that something said to me that it makes me have an emotional response to it, I try. I don't always agree. Um, I don't always follow it, but I try to remove myself from the situation, let myself to have time to cool down and figure it out. Because if I can't tackle the emotional side of it, I'm not going to be very persuasive in whatever my argument is. Like my boss and I have issues. I wouldn't say issues, but when we communicate, she'll say things that to most other people they would go crying to her higher ups. They go crying to our union, and try to get. I don't want to say get her fired, but have some sort of disciplinary thing on her. And yet, I just sit there and take it, let my emotions roll through, and then I'll come back to her later and talk to her about it and be like, "Hey, this is not okay what you said to me, especially in this situation, or I think you and I need to work this out because as her assistant manager, if her and I can't work as a team, what can we do?"
Yeah, and that actually speaks to a video that I'm in the works on about what happened to compromise and being able to work with someone even though you may or may not have a disagreement on one or multiple topics. Uh,
Exa- exactly. Um, our I don't even know where to go from this because literally it's it's not this is not a left or right issue as some people are making it out to be. Tim Pool posted a video. He's supposed to be posting one here soon again, or if he hasn't already, an update about this on his Timcast News channel, I think it is. Sargon's made a response to the or made a video about this already. Several people have already, and while yes, to start, it's going to mostly affect the right, conservative, and centrist content creators that do the political genre and comedy. It's eventually going to come back and bite the left in the ass too. It is what it is. 1 minute debunk. Do they just like the idea of having the standards 2 look cool to the kids? We'll
Well,
get into this in just a second.
oh yeah. Wait till you hear the ultimate crux of what took place. What was it, 3 days ago now, between Steven Crowder and this guy? That's what really brought my attention to it. Is so Crowder did a long form apology to everyone he has made a joke about, except Vox.
Yep.
And as I was watching it, I was thinking, it's like, is this just a way for him to play his hits of the best commentary he's made about certain individuals? And then I got to the end, I was like, wait a minute, he didn't mention Vox.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to piss them off. So apparently my prediction was right.
Oh, that reminds me. We were discussing just before I started the stream about the um Louder with Crowder live stream that happened just before I started this one and how it's taken down. It was taken down, but the all those other videos are up. So they haven't banned his channel yet. So that's good. Um Crowder's not so much a bully per se as he is a comedian. He's literally just talking about just having fun.
He's pretty much what Jon Stewart was at the beginning of uh oh fuck, I can't even remember the name of the show now.
Jon Stewart, The Daily Show?
The Daily Show, yeah. Crowder is essentially doing what Stewart did back then. The difference is that sort of show, with Crowder's slant being closer to the religious side, being closer to the conservative side of things.
He,
He it wouldn't go over well on network TV the way Stewart would today. But to call him a bully is really a stretch,
It is.
because he's he's a typical comedian when it comes to it. It's like, hey, there's this going on, this person's acting stupid, let me make fun of the stupid. To
And
which I said, Crowder can be an ass, but he researches everything and gets his facts straight before he goes into it. So that's the thing, is everyone who tries to oppose him, if you notice, they never attack the facts that he brings up. They attack his delivery, his opinion based commentary, and the descriptive way he has of identifying people and certain traits about them. They never attack the arguments that he presents themselves,
right.
which is a problem.
Yeah, and that just goes to the point that you say that he researches his stuff. I mean, he has a team that researches for him. I mean, we all know this. But he makes sure that when he's doing his videos, his rebuttal videos and stuff, he cites the sources. He makes sure that people know where he's getting his information. Vox doesn't do that, or doesn't do it always. And when they do, it's much like Adam ruins everything lately, where they're taking something out of context, you know? Well, 1 minute debunk. Eh, hey, Team Skeptic. Just because you're right doesn't mean you're not a bully. I can agree with you on that. However, if you watch Steven Crowder's stuff, you kind of get a better understanding of what he's like, and that is the crux of it. Is people are attacking him rather than his argument, much like the flat earthers attack us as glober, globe earthers, whatever you want to call us. They call us religiousness of scientism, things like that. They're not attacking our arguments; they're just attacking us. Does that mean we're bullies? I mean, Team
Well,
Skeptic is, but
I'll admit I have my moments. Saying, like, even earlier today, uh, one of my favorite chew toys, Skidmark, ended up on Red's Rhetoric's panel. I'm in there damn close to 10 minutes silent. He's there yapping away. I chime up once. He hears my voice and he runs. Now, could it be that I bullied him? Or could it be that I don't let him get away with spouting his BS? I don't know. 4 or 5 years of getting your shit kicked in kind of sours you on people, I guess.
yeah. And I'm just messing with you there, Team Skeptic. But anyways, let's get on to the actual story here that kind of helps with this.
Yeah.
So it's this morning, the Washington Post posted an article about the whole issue between the two of them. And at the time, it was being presented as a right-wing YouTuber hurling racist and homophobic taunts at a gay reporter. That's not entirely accurate. I mean, it's close, because again, when calling him a lispy gay Mexican, he he's just basically using the information that Carlos put out about himself to just poke a little fun. Nothing to be necessarily spiteful, but
It's a little bit of poking fun, and it's a little bit of giving a representation to his audience for people who, quite frankly, probably have no clue who this guy is. Like, I'll be honest, I had no clue who this dimshit was until this whole issue with Crowder came up.
yep. Now, here's the thing: the purpose of this article was to talk about how last night YouTube came out and said, unfortunately, Crowder has done nothing wrong, and we are siding with him in this case, but we're still investigating. We're still looking into this situation. So this is updated about 12:57 my time, so 3:57 Eastern. Carlos Maza, a video producer for the news. I can't believe I just read that. News site Vox said the harassment began about 2 years ago. Steven Crowder, a right-wing commentator and comedian, although, as he said in his live stream today, that you can't verify right now unless you go to louderwithcrowder.com. Shameless plug for them. He doesn't claim to be a quote unquote journalist or anything like that. He's a comedian, much in the way that Jon Stewart was, much in the way others like that Trevor Noah is supposed to be, etc. So, um, began calling out Mazza's sexuality and his race. Mazza is gay and Latino in some of his videos on YouTube. Last week, Mazza said that he finally grew sick of it. He edited a video with all the epithets that Crowder hurled at him over the last couple of years into a video and uploaded it on Twitter. So,
1 minute debunk. Maybe I'm too British to relate to this subject matter.
probably.
Hang on. A good comparison would actually be a lot of what has gone on around Sargon of Akkad.
Yes, Sargon and specifically the Just Phillips thing.
Yep.
However, it's one of those things. I'm so much in support of free speech that it's, where do I define free speech ends is something I get asked a lot amongst my family and friends, because I don't get to interact with many people. They just like to either ignore what I'm saying or just move on. I don't get much interaction from the community as a whole because I'm such a small channel, and I realize that. And I always tell them it's when an actual threat of violence or an actual credible threat can be given at somebody. Even if I were to jokingly say, Jared, I'm going to kill you, I would still consider that a credible threat from an outside perspective, wouldn't you? Even if you knew, even if it wasn't a jest.
That's where I would say it flirts with the line because it can be taken that way. But yeah, I agree. Where I say speech should have consequences, not necessarily be limited, but have consequences, are the legitimate threats and a call to action. So, like, there was a tweet within the last couple days of by President Trump that people are calling, oh, he should be impeached for that. And I can't even remember what he said, but I was like, but he didn't do a deliberate call to action, so he didn't break the law. So what's the reason to pursue impeachment now, other than Orange Man bad?
Yep. I just saw that off the hook. Thank you for subscribing. So, yeah, the whole impeachment of Trump, that reminds me, I keep getting an ad in my ads on my phone for the impeach now or something like that.com site. I need to go check out their videos. Anyways, as you can see here, there's a list of various quotes from him. But this is the one that really gets me. Is if you actually look at the shirt, which is no longer available on his t-shirt and merch stores, is socialism is for the real term is figs, because it's F and then a fig, berry, and twig. But it's meant to, much in the way make socialism, or what is it? Make Orwell fiction again hat is supposed to be a mockery of the Make America Great hat.
Yep.
At a distance, you would confuse the two hats. That's what the word fig is supposed to be doing there. Is to make you think that it's actually inferring something else that it's not.
It's that whole play on words and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like actually, South Park years back, Stan's father was on Jeopardy and was at the final bit, and it was people who annoy you, and there was one letter missing. The actual answer was naggers.
Yep.
Yeah. So I
Yep,
can,
and as a matter of fact, he's actually wearing the shirt right here in this video.
yeah.
But
But anyways, so
anyways, the tweet took off, and YouTube said in its response that it would investigate Crowder's video. But the company announced Tuesday night that Crowder's videos didn't violate its policies and that it would leave them on the site. The decision drew a torrent of criticism as concerns grow about YouTube's resolve to moderate its content. Oh, I stand corrected. He is not Mexican, but I haven't actually had a chance to research too much into this. But Maza, who is of Cuban descent and has been open about his sexuality online, said that he is upset by YouTube's decision. He says he believes that the company will allow itself to be used for racial and sexual harassment. So,
see, and that's what I find funny. It's like, hey, I'm gonna put this information out there. Then when a comedian uses this public knowledge, oh, now I'm gonna be offended by it.
yeah, don't get me started on doxing, because that you heard about the guy that made the Nancy Pelosi video where
The
she sounds like she's drunk because she's slurring her speech. She just reduced the speed down.
I will admit I saw clips of that. I find it funny because
Oh,
it is a legitimate explanation for some of the stupid that she says because
oh, it's even better.
ugh,
The Daily Beast doxed the guy. They did a whole
I
article
I
about
remember,
them.
yeah, I remember hearing that and Facebook giving them the information. Sorry, Facebook, you broke the law by doing that. You are only allowed to give out that sort of information to law enforcement,
Yep,
not journalists.
yep. And Tim Pool on his episode with Louder Crowder yesterday um, actually talked about one of the main tenets of journalism, the ethics of journalism, is that you are not supposed to put your sources in harm, and you're not supposed to make your subjects be in harm either. You shouldn't be potentially hurting anybody. So,
No, because that goes against the ethics of balanced,
mhm,
factually accurate reporting. That sort of behavior goes into your op-ed, your editorial type stuff, and your opinion-based aspect of things, not the factual accuracy,
mhm,
which just speaks to the overall downward spiral of the American media in general over the last 20 years.
yep. Oh, look at this these little tweets by people. This is absolutely bananas. Just like Google has done with Breitbart at YouTube, a Google company is monetizing this bigoted crap with advertisers' dollars, and the majority of them are likely not aware. Why are these videos attacking at gay won't be able to be monetized? Ads for at make space, etc., 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 and the Trump campaign. Oh God, it's
Whoa, whoa, whoa. From Team Skeptic, I had to go leave a comment on Daniel Pratt's video. When I came back in here, I was warned that this video contains inappropriate material.
I
Huh.
purposely set an age restriction to this.
Oh.
That is me I because of the potential that I may get worked up a bit. So, because I've heard bits and pieces of this blog post that we'll be going over here in a minute, and it just, yeah,
The bit that Crowder put on his show 2 days ago is what really ticked me off about it. But I know we'll be getting there soon, people.
yep. So, and Mazda says it seems to me that's a clear violation of the policy. I understand speech is all that always. I understand that speech always involves gray areas, but it's hard to enforce hate speech policies. Should not that it's hard to, but it's well, okay. That just doesn't seem very grammatically correct to me. It doesn't flow off the tongue easy. But that it's hard to enforce hate speech policies should not distract from the fact that it's sometimes extremely clear cut. And this seems to be one of those cases. That's just it. This isn't one of those cases. It's not hate speech. There's no intent from Crowder that I can see watching his videos that he is trying to incite violence, trying to cause emotional distress, or anything. He's just poking fun for fun's sake. So, so it's like, like what we used to do on the ship and the boat. I mean, like people just being people.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that sort of environment and the unique stressors that we have to deal with do lead to a less socially acceptable type of humor and interactions. I'm especially with what the military has had to deal with over the last 15 plus years now. Our sense of humor is appropriately twisted. I don't deny that fact.
Yeah. No, I understand that too. I understand the difference between, like the humor we had, but at the same time, we could we could just joke for joking's sake. It'll be like, oh man, this slop is shit. That type of stuff on about the cooking. Things like that, and the cooks wouldn't take it personally, or whoever was cooking that day wouldn't take it personally. Those types of things.
Mhm.
Um, YouTube's policy explicitly forbids hate speech, which it defines as content promoting violence or hatred against people or groups related to race, sexuality, nationality, and immigration status, among other distinctions. Tell me what
Now,
he did that was violent or hate.
now, the closest thing that you could say is that by making fun of him with this information, it could be seen as,
It's the borderline.
I can't even go that far because it to me it's not promoting violence, it's not promoting hatred, it's calling a spade a spade.
Yeah, it's basically calling somebody out for the things that they've made publicly available to everybody else. It would be one thing if he was in the closet still about his homosexuality. It'd be one thing if we could clearly see that he is obviously of Hispanic descent, but maybe he didn't want that known. I could understand at that point making it hate speech at that point, or even calling it doxing at that point. Because it's because at that point it is bringing something that's private into the public that has never been shared by the person before. You know.
uh, uh,
Oh God.
yeah.
Oh God, I love you, Team Skeptic, and that is also why I put an age restriction in case they see that as well, or in case the chat is available afterwards. Um, Using stereotypes that promote hatred are also prohibited. The company also forbids behavior intended to maliciously harass, threaten, or bully others. Again, this is the key word of that whole phrase.
Well, and not yeah, it even before that intended to maliciously.
Yeah,
Yeah, because here's the thing. Crowder goes out of his way to say, don't go after the person. Let's go after the idea. Let's go after the topic. Let's go after the stance. Yes, he will poke fun at certain individuals' characteristics, but that is not him saying, yeah, go mess with them. Go spam their channel or in other ways make their life a living hell. He has actually said, don't do that. He has been an advocate for not stooping to that level.
he even goes as far as to say, "Don't contact these people, don't harass them, don't do anything," because he knows that regardless of whether he's liable or not for what the actions of his fans are, they will make it publicly known that it's his fans doing this. Much like the photo he Mazda tweeted of a list of phone numbers that all sent him a text message at the same time saying debate Crowder. And for all we know, that's not a bunch of people. That could just be one person with a text bot. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is. Um, including content that is deliberately posted in order to humiliate someone. That was a weird inflection I put on there. Or that makes hurtful or negative personal comments or videos about another person. Again, if you go and look at actual Steven Crowder's contents on his rebuttals, even though he is poking fun, he is literally presenting facts, sources, like I said before, much like the rest of our community does for flat earthers and anti-science, anti-vaxxers. I mean, take a look at Team Skeptic. He sits there and goes over everything and explains it. Now, could he maybe add source material like links to his description? I don't go looking through his video description, but if he did that, would that change how the flat earthers feel about him? Probably not.
Okay.
But anyways, YouTube says that, but it says Crowder's videos did not violate any of these policies. Our team spent the last few days conducting an in-depth review of the videos flagged to us, and while we found language that is clearly hurtful, the videos as posted do not violate our policies. Again, there's no intent.
No intent, no call to action. Yeah, he's an ass.
Yep. And what's really funny is on the live stream that again I linked and is not available for you to see anymore. He actually has his lawyer. God, I can't even remember the lawyer's name now.
Half Asian lawyer. I remember that bit
Yeah,
because that's another thing is him using that sort of terminology for people on his own show, people who are in his corner, should just go to show it's part of his shtick. He does it to people close to him. He does it to people on the opposing side of him.
I mean,
You know what? I guess he's a an equal opportunity offender in that case,
he is
which is the best way to be.
Because I mean, look at his producer. He calls him
quarter
black.
Yeah,
quarter black. Whatever the producer's name is. It is one of those. It's just one of those things. He's not doing it to be hurtful. He's not doing it with intent to humiliate anybody. He's doing it as a shtick, as a joke. It's just one of those things. Um, the the reporter for this tried to get a hold of Steven Crowder. I'm trying to find that part here. But what they don't tell you is they sent an email to his via his website that he hasn't responded. They sent it to his merch website email account that goes to an entirely different person. Because they know that if they gotten a hold of him directly, he would have called a spade still.
Ooh, team, that could be fun. Team Skeptic. I'm going to try to get Crowder to troll Flat Earth with me in November. Ooh, that is so tempting and could be a lot of fun.
Yes, that would be a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, I've been thinking about if I ever do run for politics, I'll kind of do the Crowder and Sargon thing. Set up a table, come talk to me about my positions. I know it didn't work for him, but at least it'll get my name out there.
Well, and here's the thing. I personally believe that nowadays that really is the best way to do it because, sorry, a lot of these career politicians, you can't fucking trust them. They will say one thing during the actual campaign, but how many of them actually follow through and actually stick to what they claimed their foundations were?
Oh, I like this. Crowder, who did not respond immediately to the comment, says he's the victim of forces seeking to silence him. That's not far off.
Ooh. See, Jay, do you have any of the footage from one of the previous videos that Crowder did where he showed some of the tweets that Mazza sent directly to YouTube?
Oh, I could probably pull up his channel. Just checking here. What's Antonio doing?
Oh, who knows?
Oh god, wrong one. Oh, this is a great one. I shared that to Jared. The I'm sorry.
Oh yes, that was beautiful.
I think this is the one that you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah,
The,
so in that video, uh Crowder shows the publicly available tweets from Maza directly to YouTube calling for them to flag the hell out of his channel. So,
you mean this one right here?
yep, right here. Anyways, if you want to help, I guess you can go to this dude's channel and flag them. That is a call to action there, Carlos.
Yep.
That is not protected free speech. But who's trying to silence who? Who's the one actually trying to do damage?
Oh, who's the one that's actually trying to use cyberbullying? Oh, it's
The
yeah.
you know what, Carlos? That projection is so strong. What movie can you play for us?
I bet you we could get it in 8K.
Ooh, we should see if he could do Avatar. Then it might actually be worth watching.
Only if we can get it in 3D 8K. um, but it but if you watch that video, it's the same video where they get this quote. That's friendly ribbing, he said, in the language you used about Mazda. Did I ever offhandedly use the term lisp? I really don't remember it, but it sounds like me. He's being honest. I mean, how is he not being honest about saying, yeah, that's the kind of thing I would do? Because it's exactly as he says here. It's funny, and this is a comedy show.
Well, not even that. He says, but it does sound like me. Why? Because you speak with a lisp and you refer to yourself as queer. Again, publicly available information. Comedians are going to and are allowed to use that sort of information.
Exactly. I think we've read enough of this here,
Yeah,
of the story. The link is in the description if you do want to go see this, unlike Vox. So here's
well,
the official blog that YouTube put out today. Did you want to say something there, Jared?
going back to that previous one, if you still had it up towards the bottom here, uh, called the company's decision to demonetize his video streams an adpocalypse,
Oh yeah, sorry.
and and warned to his viewers that the decision was a war on all independent creators. He's not wrong. Because if you look at a lot of the channels who are of a similar political leaning, they don't, if you notice, they don't really push the subscription, the views, the thumbs up, thumbs down, any of that metric stuff on YouTube. They're pushing their Patreon, they're pushing their independent merch sites, they're pushing the other avenues because the monetization has gone to shit.
Speaking of which, I need to do a shameless plug. I have a link to subscribe to our Patreon down below, as well as my StreamLabs. Sorry, couldn't resist since you brought
It,
it up.
yeah, but that's the thing is when you look at the channels who really could benefit from the ad revenue, it's not there because of how overly sensitive a lot of these topics have gotten, in my opinion, needlessly. And it's all because of a loud vocal minority are crying foul because they can't handle criticism. They can't handle being the object of a joke. Here's the thing. You motherfuckers who have seen me and have talked to me off air, make fun of me all you want. It's just part of the game. It's part of being a more public voice like this. You are going to have critics. You are going to have naysayers. You are going to have people who are going to try to pick and use you as the butt of jokes. All I say is it better be a good fucking joke. And if it is, I will give you credit for it.
Off the hook. That is exactly why when I watch non-sec live streams, it's I'm usually not commenting in them because of that very reason. I can put aside our differences that I know that we all have politically and talk the topic But as soon as I open my mouth in disagreement against their viewpoint, it's it's going to be just, I don't want to say hate, but it's going to be just verbal attack after verbal attack from those people. I mean, take a look when you did the what was it? You were doing the voter ID thing with
Yeah.
Destiny, I think it was.
Yep.
Sean Hawkins was pissed at me before the video even started because I understood the topic a little bit better than he did, and he just didn't want to hear what I had to say. And as far as I'm sure as far as he's concerned, I am just trash, and I don't think he really reacts to me in any other chat. So it is what it is. Doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
So, all right. So moving on to YouTube's official blog post, our ongoing work to tackle hate. Now, this is, I don't know if they mentioned it in here, if they mentioned it to the lawyer, Steven Crowder's lawyer. But they said that they've been working on this for a while. It's actually just a coincidence of timing, and I could actually believe that. So, because it takes forever for them to come up with algorithms, and it takes forever for them to go, to get them working right. You know what I mean? So, but, oh, what did team send you this time? Anyways, over the past few years, we've been investing in policies and resources and products needed to live up to our responsibility and protect the YouTube community from harmful content. This work is focused on 4 pillars: removing violative content, I can't even speak. Yeah, violative content. I know what I'm trying to say, but it just doesn't want to come out right. Raising up authoritative content, reducing the spread of borderline content, and rewarding trusted creators. Now, those 4 pillars might seem like quality virtue, and I don't mean to make it sound like virtue signaling, but quality virtues for a company like YouTube to have.
It gives the veneer of it, but so taking a look at this blog post as an isolated thing, yeah, it looks great. But when you start putting it in context of other decisions and inconsistencies in their decisions that they've had up to this point, that's where it starts to raise an eyebrow, especially after what happened after the parent company, Google, their treatment of particular subset of employees that sparked a memo that got one of them fired.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, there. I wonder if this actually links to what the actual definitions are, but um, when they say authoritative content, they don't mean like people who actually go through and do research on the topics per se. They're talking more like, especially in my realm, in the politics realm, they go to the news sources. They go to the CNNs, the MSNBCs, ABC,
The big
NBC.
players.
Yeah. And that really would hurt somebody like me. Yes, there are times where I have not done my research as deeply as I should. I'm not going to lie about that. Sometimes I get an emotional response. I calm down enough. I figure out what I want to say, and I say it. And if I'm wrong, I will be more than willing to go back and address the issue. But at the same time, if somebody like Carlos Maza does a video on Vox, I don't know how many of them they've actually gone back and said, "Oh, hey, we said this, but we found out that we were wrong, and it should be this." Much in the way that Rationality Rules has gone through with his videos on the trans athletes.
Wait, you mean that there are people who actually have the intellectual integrity to recognize when they made a mistake and actually go back, do further research, and then do another release correcting themselves?
Exactly. And
Huh.
what's even more insightful about this? They don't just do it that same day or within hours of being notified that they were wrong. Rationality Rules actually is one of those people that researches it and finds out, okay, this is what I said wrong here, and this is how I should have presented it. and explains it and goes through it. I mean, I'm sure you've watched his latest video on it or his response to it, but it amazes me that there's people out there that once you do something wrong, you're, you know, for lack of a better phrase, you're basically Satan himself
It,
after that point.
yeah, there is a group of people, a subset within our own community who are the one and done type of mentality, and actually that that behavior has actually been an underpinning of a number of my vlogs on the Moto channel, especially the next one coming up.
Yeah. Thanks to these investments, videos that violate our policies are removed faster than ever. Users are seeing less borderline content and harmful misinformation. As we do this, we're partnering closely with lawmakers and civil society around the globe to limit the spread of violent extremism content online. I.e., we are wanting to not allow you to speak your opinion.
We're politicizing this based on our overriding stated ideals and political leanings, again, which are not in line with creators such as Sargon of Akkad,
Alex
Steven
Jones.
Crowder, Alex Jones, which I will agree. I don't agree with a lot of what Alex Jones has to say, but I still believe he has the right to say it.
Hmm. I totally agree. No, nobody should have their channel banned unless they actually you can demonstrate they actually called for violence or some other form that is a speech that's not protected under the First Amendment here in the United States. Now, obviously, when you're dealing with an international company like YouTube, they're going to have to follow the laws in those countries. So that means you have to restrict my video from being viewed in the UK or South Africa, Iraq, whatever. That is fine by me. I understand that you have to obey those laws. And I don't hold that against YouTube. But that doesn't mean that in countries that hold a modicum of free speech values, um, that my voice shouldn't be able to be heard. And that's unfortunately what is it now? Articles 15 and 17 or 17 and 19 in the EU are going to be doing to the European Union. So yeah. So anyways, um, we reviewed our policies on an ongoing basis to make sure that we draw the line in the right place. In 2008 alone, we made up more than 30 policy updates. One of the most complex and consistently evolving areas we deal with is hate speech, which has no legal definition here in the United States. We have been taking a close look at our approach towards hateful conduct in consultation with dozens of experts in the subject, like violent extremism, supremacism, civil rights, and free speech. Based on those based on those learnings, we are making several updates. YouTube.
Again, a very nice veneer, but this is where I have to quote George Carlin on this. Soft speech leads to soft men.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It, and that's why I titled this the way that I did. This wasn't actually them coming after Crowder. It wasn't actually them going after anybody but the advertisers, which then affects all the content creators below. You know, I've never held the dream that I'm ever going to be able to monetize this channel ever because of the fact that I don't follow the leftist agenda. But I am actually now afraid that I will lose my channel with these new policies, which are going into effect today, by the way. Removing more hateful and supremacist content from YouTube. YouTube has always had rules of the roads, including a long-standing policy against hate speech. In 2017, we introduced a tougher stance towards videos with supremacist content, including limiting recommendations and features like comments and the ability to share the video. This step dramatically reduced the views of these videos on average of 80%. Today we're taking another step in our hate speech policy by specifically prohibiting videos alleging that a group is superior in order to justify discrimination, segregation, or exclusion based upon the qualities like age, gender, race, caste, religion, sexual orientation, or veteran status. So you know what that means for VTW. I can't say that submariners are better than the Airedales or anything anymore. And we can't pick on the non-veterans because they're not cool like us anymore. Oh darn. Now, do I
Uh,
really think it's going to go that far? No, but you
no,
know.
no, but it's that thing is again, it's a lovely veneer. I have my doubts and hesitations in them actually faithfully and equitably instituting these changes.
Yep. Now, mind you, they have issues with certain words that they even wrote into their own blog post. So, not that I've ever planned on getting, like I said, like I've never planned on getting monetized. I'm still going to say the words anyways, even though Tim Pool doesn't. This would include, for example, videos that promote or glorify Nazi ideology, which is inherently discriminatory. So is most of the social justice left, but we could argue that back and forth for days, I bet. Finally, we will remove content denying the well documented violent events like the Holocaust or the shooting at Sandy Hook took place. So you can't deny the Holocaust and you can't deny that Sandy Hook Elementary happened. Alex Jones has come out and apologized for that. He should get his channel back. He should get all of his social media back. Won't happen though.
Again, the one and done mentality, which sometimes is justified, other times it's not.
Yeah,
And I will say, Jones flirted with that border.
he
He
did.
straddled that line. But again, that's his stick. He was known for pushing those bounds. So is it really surprising that he said those things? No. Is it surprising that he faced the fallout that he did? No. Is it surprising that after capitulation, he's still on the outs? Yes.
Yeah. Now I now here's the thing: is like a lot of people are like, well, these are private companies, et cetera, et cetera. I get that, and they have the right to police their product as how they want. However, the problem with social media is that it basically becomes as, and I think I still have this window up somewhere. I wonder if I can pull that up and put it in here. This court ruling says that the government cannot restrict your access to social networks. Now that's saying the government, not the individual.
Not the
Um,
individual platforms. And that
yeah.
that is another thing that a lot of people, especially those here in the US, need to remember. While we do tout free speech and the rights of people to speak their mind um, in whatever fashion they choose, YouTube is not part of the government. YouTube is a private entity. Google is a private entity.
Facebook.
Other streaming platforms and other social media platforms are private entities, which is why they are allowed to have terms of service requirements
Mhm.
that give the appearance of restricting free speech as they see fit. And that's part of the risk of going into a business relationship, because that's really what it is when you look at it
Uh-huh.
with these platforms.
And that's exactly how I looked at it when I started getting more active into actually doing stuff. Is this isn't me on a soapbox out in the middle of my town square talking to people. This is me using the local public access TV station, which is usually owned by a private company, to host my stuff. At some point, there has to be a balance of my free speech rights over their ability to conduct their business. And I get that, and that is fine. But these these entities need to figure out how they want to do this, because if they allow their platforms to basically become the public square, they run afoul of the government being able to reach in and you know legislate against them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They have to find that balance. And that's where I say my suggestion is that they have to adhere to the federal laws at that point, where there are certain types of speech and certain actions that are against the law, Other than that, have at it.
Mm-hmm. Um, they make a half-hearted gesture here that we recognize some of this content is value to researchers and NGOs looking to understand hate in order to combat it, and we're exploring options to make it available to them in the future. So basically, they'll restrict your content and then only allow certain groups to basically download it from their servers.
Yeah, and then once they're satisfied with the time frame, they're gonna remove the shit.
Exactly. And when it comes to legislation, I'm all for less government intervention in this because as soon as the government's involved, that can get pretty nasty pretty quick. Even though at that point they can't restrict our speech, they can find ways of making it difficult to say what you want to say.
They can manipulate the consequences.
Yeah.
And that's where you can still say it, but there are consequences to certain types of speech. And that's even still true today.
Mhm.
And which I remind people, you're free to say whatever you want, but that's not freedom from the consequences of what you say. And that's the difficult part about all this is how do you establish and maintain a sensible criteria for that?
And no offense, since I did serve our government and I'm a veteran and proud of it, and I'm a patriot, our government can't run shit.
Oh, I agree. And that's where I think some people might be surprised when my stance is yes, I want to maintain a properly funded and trained military, but I want the government to slow its fucking roll just about everywhere else.
Oh yeah. Um, as always, context matters, etc., etc., etc. Reducing borderline content and raising up authoritative voices. Now, this is the one that really is going to get my blood boiling.
Reread as we're gonna play favorites.
In addition to removing videos that violate our policies, we want to reduce the spread of content that comes right up to the line. In January, we piloted an update of our systems in the US to limit recommendations of borderline content and harmful misinformation, such as videos promoting a phony miracle cure for serious illness, jelly juice, um, or claiming the earth is flat. I can still find those videos pretty easily.
Yeah, you guys are talking a big game, but you're not really following through.
I mean, all I have to do is watch one or two a day, like actual flat earthers videos, and then my feed is nothing but flat earth for a while. We're looking to bring this updated We're looking to bring this updated system to more countries by the end of 2019. Thanks to this change, the number of views of this type of content gets recommendations has dropped to over 50% in the US. That's a good start. That's not where I think you really want to be with something like Jelly Juice and Flat Earth. Although I don't want to take away from Team Skeptic's money or anything like that. Our systems are also getting smarter about what types of videos should get this treatment, and we'll be able to apply it even more borderline videos moving forward. As we do this, we'll also start raising up more authoritative content and recommendations, building on the other changes that we made to news last year. For example, if a user is watching a video that comes close to violating our policies, our system may include more videos from authoritative sources like top news channels in the Watch Next panel. So if I say something that doesn't agree with their narrative, instead of you getting linked to another one of my videos or another person who has even another independent YouTuber that rebuts my information, you're going to get instead recommended CNN, MSNBC, etc.
Yeah, because they've been such bastions of actual faithful I don't want to say regurgitation, but spreading of the information about what's going on.
Yep.
And yep, Dave Bowman has it right.
Yep.
Authoritative sources. Hashtag Orwell.
Newspeak.
Yeah.
and continuing to reward trusted creators and enforce our monetization policies. Finally, it's critical that our monetization systems reward trusted creators who have value to YouTube. We have a long-standing advertiser-friendly guidelines that prohibit ads from running on videos that include hateful content, and we've enforced this rigorously. Yeah, I know a few content creators who have that happen to them. In order to protect our ecosystem of creators, advertisers, and viewers, we tightened our advertising criteria in 2017. In the case of hate speech, we strengthened the enforcement of our existing YouTube partner program policies. Channels that repeatedly brush up against hate speech policies will be suspended from the YouTube partner program, meaning they cannot run ads on their channel or use other monetization features such as super chats.
Oh, speaking of, let me pull this one up.
Oh, by all means.
You probably know which one I'm gonna bring up because it's again quite the post that just was put up 5 hours ago, which I'm gonna link in the chat to it. And let me move this over here so I can screen share easily. Speaking of being removed from monetization if you're too close and flirt with the line, Sinatra says, had that happen to him today.
Like I said, this was going into effect today.
And what's really funny and what I would like to know, and the answer might be somewhere in the 572 comments responding to this, from YouTube itself. During a recent review, our team of policy specialists carefully looked over the videos you've uploaded to your channel, Sinatra says. We found that a significant portion of your channel is not in line with our YouTube partnership program policies. As of today, your channel is not eligible to monetize and you will not have access to monetization tools and features. Please go to your monetization page to read more about the specific policy our specialists flagged. How much you want to bet they really didn't go into detail and are eventually going to give the runaround on where and how his content now retroactively doesn't fit the policy?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm well aware of this one because he is. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite content creators, but he is one of my how do I want to put it? He's one of the ones that I'll follow because he gives a different side of things. Now, I don't always agree with him on his stuff, but at the same time, I don't go out of my way to do anything that he comments about. Like if he's doing a video on Riley Dennis, I don't go to Riley's channel and make hateful comments or anything.
No.
I just let Riley's stupidity do that for themselves. So,
And I wonder how many of those videos were the ones that dealt with Riley.
I can just imagine Drunken Uncle. Have you ever seen his channel?
I have not.
He has his pet project is well, sometimes is Riley Dennis. He is mostly the channel called Queer Kids Stuff. Yeah, go give that a watch. You will be let me see if I can pull up a link to it here really quick. Drunken Uncle. And he does a lot of other things that are pretty how should we say offensive to other people. That I'm going to post this in the live chat here. There you go. If you're easily offended, don't watch this channel. Oh. but yeah, there's a channel that's trying to teach the LGBTQ lifestyle and various things in it to children, preschool age children. That's how the show is set up. And all Drunkle is doing is taking the piss out of them. But
Yeah, but you may hurt someone's feels by doing that.
yep, and it honestly the whole hashtag Vox Adpocalypse hashtag is relevant because it's not that it's not Vox and Carlos Maza attacking Crowder. It was them attacking YouTube, specifically going at the advertisers by making it look like YouTube isn't following their own policies and therefore, supporting business or supporting creators that would hurt businesses otherwise ad friendly status, or family friendly status. And that that's the problem is I was actually watching the Ranting Monkeys morning live stream today about this specifically about this article before they had released the blog post, is my understanding, when I was watching it. But you have, you know, usually at most 30, 40 people crying out on Twitter about these things, um, and companies will capitulate to them. That should be left to, a larger representation of your actual consumer base, you know. But why give a crap about your actual consumers when you got people saying they're your consumers? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
the whole it's the whole boycott Starbucks thing, you know.
Yeah, which and that's the thing is there are times that appropriate calls to action like that are acceptable, but there are other times it's just a dick move.
Oh yeah. Well, my favorite is the every Earth Day or so. Yeah, about every Earth Day, you get people saying, "Don't fill up your gas on Earth Day," whatever. You know what happens? That's usually one of our busiest days ever for fuel sales.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, this the social media activism is just, what do I want to say, garbage at best, because it doesn't always work the way that they intend it to. And if it does work and get whatever they want, eventually it comes back to bite them in the ass. Because what was happening the couple weeks ago? Some Oh god, I can't remember now. There was somebody made that got a, oh, I know what it was. They're talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez blocking the Daily Caller and other people on Twitter. That's
Hmm.
a big no-no now by a politician.
Uh,
And you know what her defense is?
what's that?
It's my personal account. I believe most of what Donald Trump tweets off of is at
His
real.
personal account.
Yeah. And guess what the various federal courts have said so far? I don't know if the Supreme Court ruled on it yet or not. But basically, you can't do that as a politician. The people have the right to talk to you.
Yeah, you essentially once you are elected to public office, the only time you have a private life is what takes place physically inside your home that is not work related.
hmm And unfortunately, when you're on Twitter and you're spouting, especially stuff about what your policies are, guess what that is? That makes it work.
Yeah, that it's part of your
Oh,
work. It's part of that public life, and ugh,
I haven't checked this in a while. It's up to 1,738 new results for hashtag Fox Apocalypse. But now the Vox Apocalypse is actually both sides of things. It's actually pretty funny.
well, and that's how it should be. It should things like that should get a conversation going between the two sides. That is the intended purpose of a lot of this. And actually, that's what freaking Crowder wants in the first place. He wants the conversation to take place. He wants that dialogue, which is why he has had the Change My Mind series. And even the last couple, he's gone away from him being involved to having it be two students talking about the topic. And
Oh, what
then
do you?
him giving critique. And the reason why he did that is because a lot of colleges started not wanting to have him there because they were afraid of the potential backlash.
And speaking of violence and other things that people have, that people on the left say isn't actually violence, the person who threw this at the political person actually got arrested for battery.
Yeah, because it does fall
Exactly.
under assault. And yet here we have Carlos advocating it.
Yep. Deplatforming works, and we should get used. We should use it way more aggressively. Deplatforming doesn't work the way you think it will, Carlos. Now these are just people sharing other. I just refreshed this like a minute ago, and I'm already up to 58 new results. But I mean, this is just one of those things. Oh God, really?
Oh no. Wow.
God. Well, there went my any chance of me monetizing ever again. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go check out S Crowder and check out if he's posted anything about this video. His video being taken down.
Uh it, it's now trending number one. He's talking about that. No? Oh, less than an hour ago. The target was
Yeah.
it, yeah, to silence independent creators, which technically he is a part of.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Is one of the reasons why they demonetized his channel is also that T-shirt "Socialism is for Figs."
Mm-hmm.
The only way he could get his monetization back was to take down the two videos that they never told him why it violated the policies, or at least demonetize them. You know, like actively select to demonetize them, and then to take the T-shirt off of his merch store.
Which he did.
Right, but he didn't do it because they asked him to. He did it because he's just trying to save some face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's that thing. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this in uh, with faith that they'll follow through. And when they don't, who looks bad in that aspect?
You know what's funny is I was waiting for him to end that live stream just so I could try and rip it down. I I couldn't. They took it down almost immediately. I'd be interested to see what happens with this, which will go up on my Bitchute channel, which is linked below as well. Bitchute is an alternative to YouTube. As of right now, they don't have a streaming service aspect that I'm aware of, but I do on my more controversial topics. I'm going to be starting to record those and load them onto Facebook and load them onto YouTube and Bitchute at the same time. So if YouTube doesn't have it there and you saw a notification about it, go check out my Bitchute as well. I'm also on Minds and Gab, so if you want to check me out on those two as well. So, yeah, Team Skeptic, I agree.
Well, and that's always the funny thing to point out. It's like, yeah, it has yet to actually work viably long term. Well, it's never been done completely. Really, really, jackass, you want to play that card?
I know because it's literally you cannot get out or you can't get human nature out of human nature. You
Social
know,
system.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can't
and
take it out because if you and I are busting our ass and Team Skeptic and Off the Hook are just sitting around being lazy all day, not that they would, but you know, hypothetically speaking, do you think you and I would really want to continue working as hard as we are?
oh hell no, 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 and that's the thing is that sort of system breeds not just a lack of desire, but also corruption. I mean, when you look at it, the only socialist government that has stayed running long term is not a purely socialist government, and that's China. Yes, they have socialist tendencies, but they are capitalist as fuck
Oh
when
yeah.
it comes to their international trade.
Yep. Internally, they are socialist. I would say 95% of the time. Externally, they're capitalist 95% of the time. They fuse the two together to make it work to benefit. I don't want to say benefit, but to make the system work as best that it can for them. I mean, heck, they've in they've in social point system, so social credit system that, and people like the far left here want that type of system in place here.
Wasn't there a Black Mirror episode about that?
I think there was. I haven't watched a single episode of Black Mirror.
You should. Some of the things like that are um, rather intriguing, and there was one like that where essentially your social status is voted on by everyone you interact with on a daily basis, and if you start trending in the wrong way, kiss friendships goodbye, kiss uh your where you live goodbye, your car, everything ends up being tied into your social acumen.
Yep. Oh, and guess what? Hashtag Mug Club is now trending number 5.
Nice.
For those of you that don't know, that's Steven Crowder's way of funding his or promoting the subscription for Blaze TV, um, which he's a part of.
So my wife is a member of the Tumblr crew from Shapiro.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to join Mug Club just to set the two of them on the table next to them to take a picture for Twitter and tag both of them.
That's very tempting, especially since right now you can get 1 year of Louder with Crowd or the subscription for $69.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1-day Mug Club promo.
Well, and not just that, being a veteran, it's that price for us no matter what.
Yep.
And being students.
Yep. Why can't I get all of them at one time and basically get it for free? I don't know.
Oh, I've thought about sending that message, be like, hey, I'm a veteran and a student. Does that mean I get double the discount?
I think it should. What is it? It's 30% off, so that's 60%. I'll gladly. Oh, $30 off, so 90. Yeah, 30%. Doing
Yeah,
the math in my head really quick. So,
you can do that.
well, math isn't reality, remember?
How can you have negative of something? It's called being in debt, you fuck. Who was it that was saying that? Was that Liley?
I think so. Uh, who doesn't understand what parts per million means?
Social justice has been hijacked by the far left. You can call for social justice without calling for an end to capitalism. Capitalism may not work for everyone, but socialism fails just as many, if not more.
Oh, totally.
I would lean towards more.
I would lean towards more too, and that there's nothing that I see wrong with that statement because it is true. The original social justice was at first it was the freeing of the slaves. Once they were freed after the Civil War, you know, it was moving on to unfortunately allowing the Jim Crow laws. You can't hide the fact that bad people do bad things. But then you had suffragettes, so white women could vote at that point. Even though technically it was supposed to be all women, but in the South, black people couldn't vote very much, and I believe in the North it wasn't all that popular either. Um, and then going on to the civil rights movements, you get into the second wave of feminism, which is more equality rights. Treating women less like personal secretaries and treating more like colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get to the point where with feminism and the Me Too movement, and I think we're on the fourth wave now of feminism. You're getting to a point where the social justice is no longer about social justice. It is literally about um, oppression points, oppression Olympic points,
or
and
or the virtue signaling.
yeah,
It's a balance between the two. You're the people who play that game. They're on either side of it. They're either trying to bolster their oppression scale or trying to virtue signal, which seeing that in other communities where I expected so much better of people.
you mean like a Team Skeptics comic right now? I wonder
uh,
how the feminists feel about the transgender world records. That's what breeds from intersectionality.
yeah.
Yeah,
eh.
that 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 is that is why I'm actually considering about going to the mythicism or MythCon or whatever it's called that's in Milwaukee, because I'm interested to see how the various intersectionality groups are going to get along.
That could be quite the dumpster fire in person. Like here's the thing. I see a small likelihood of there being a middle ground there. It's either going to lean towards being perfectly fine with no abrasion at all, or it's going to get really bad really quick.
I have one acronym for you: TERF, Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminism. I think they generally stay away from MythCon, unfortunately, or
So
Mythicism Milwaukee. I think it's called MythCon, but you know,
oh, off the hook.
yeah, I saw that. but it but yeah, no, I understand the difference between the civil rights movement and actual social justice. The foundation of the civil rights gets its start from the early forms of social justice by moving forward society itself. It sucks that it had to actually come to that, you know, because honestly, we should have we should have done better in setting the ground rules during the Reconstruction period, but we shouldn't have been so military authoritative like we were. I mean, there's so many what ifs when it comes to history. I wonder if I can get a hold of what's his name from an alternate history hub.
Oh, that would be an interesting.
He's done videos. You know what would happen if if the South had won, and the results pretty much end up the same, except for it just takes longer for the South to die.
Yeah, there's been a few episodes that they've done on that channel that were kind of disappointing, but the reason that they gave was actually pretty good and made sense. Where if we change this one event, things are going to be so drastically different. We don't know how the hell it could play out.
Yeah, much like unfortunately, I hate to reference the show, but DC's Legends of Tomorrow, when they went back and tried to save one person, and all of a sudden they come back and in what is it, not Starling City, Central City. They there were dinosaurs walking around, and a whole bunch of Rip's time agents were trying to stop the mess that the Legends created.
Well, that's what you have when you have Rory at the helm instead of the Doctor.
I know, could be worse though. Could be worse. They could have had Spurkismo at the helm.
They wouldn't have even gotten out of the time frame in the first place.
Oh God,
That you
I'm gonna have to go find that. And if it's down now already, Skeptic, you got to send me a copy of the raw file. and I'll share it with Jared. But all in
And
all, in reality, I don't think people realize that with this version of the apocalypse, and I think it's like apocalypse 4 or 5, is that
yeah, something like that.
it's it's just it's not going to have the effect that YouTube wants on it. And Carlos Maza has said basically that demonetization doesn't work, and he's right. But at the same time, it is the it's going to affect all content creators, even those authoritative creators like CNN, MSNBC, because if people are just getting pumped that, they're not going to want to go see those. They're just going to not let that video come up.
Well, and that, and not just that, is you're also going to have the viewership end up leaving the platform because a lot of the content creators are going to end up leaving the platform.
Well, like I said,
YouTube would not be a thing if it wasn't for the people like us who routinely give them something to show off.
yep. I mean, here's just a look at the. Oh, it's got me logged in. Never mind. Let me go from my subscribe to all here. Share share application. So up here is just some various people that are actually on here, but you can see the why people call Bitchute and other non regular social medias right right leaning is because that's where all those people have to go to be able to put forth content. You know, I mean, look at this one, Rebel Media. Pastor Dave Lynn, exercise your right to free speech before it's too late.
Yeah. Uh,
Now that would be an interesting one. Trump meets the Queen on royal UK state visit. The left is in hysterics. That's actually pretty funny. And somebody actually killed the Trump blimp baby.
no.
Yeah, the museum, the London Museum wanted it. Popular. Here's societal atrophy. Yep.
Hey, that looks familiar.
So, Netlips. Oh, that's funny. But I mean, in all honesty, I mean, it's one of those. The reason why you're having people come to these platforms is because they have nowhere else to go. That's why I have content. I don't have as much content there as I had originally hoped to have up there. I think I have like a handful of videos. I've got 3 subscribers. One of them is myself. Tips or pledges. Do I even have that ability?
Oh, he found it.
Oh, he did. I have to put that in a new link and pull that down into its own video. Oh, wait.
That
That's the video you debunked?
that could be interesting. Hey, the
You could go ahead and send him the link.
all right.
I'll get set up for this.
This will be entertaining.
Uh,
Oh, by the way, while you're doing that, you should
yeah.
check the memes that in your DMs.
Yeah, I saw the first one that you shared, and then that's a good one. The President Trump one there. All right. So waiting for a skeptic to get in here.
All right, he has the link on Discord.
All right. Making sure my OBS is still recording because I haven't been paying attention to that.
Yeah, minor detail. You might want to do that.
Yep. It's not going to be fun because now I have to go into an editor and get out the Hangouts window. There we go. There's Skeptic trying to join under the Science or Satire channel. Looking forward to that stream. Isn't that this Saturday? Hopefully not while we're doing with Kanar with Damar.
Okay, can you hear me now?
No,
yeah, I can hear you.
Oh my god.
And your many cam isn't exactly working.
Oh, I'm about to fix that right now. Hold on.
Right now?
Right now.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
talking Lego man.
So now you get the talking Lego man with you guys up in the corner.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to actually present to all myself. All right. Are we ready for this? Let me know if the volume is too high.
Let me tell you something. This was the actual very first debunk video I ever did, was on this video right here. And no one will ever see it. There were people that, when I deleted the video, I had like 250 likes and 1 dislike. And I was like, damn, this is tight. But nobody subscribed to me. Then I made Flat Earth videos and everybody subscribed.
You shouldn't have deleted it. You should have just, unlisted it.
I know. But for a moment, I was like, oh, these people, there's so many, like, somebody will dislike me because I have a feminist video up. Now I find out that half the community is like, yeah, make feminist videos. That should be hilarious.
It's the ebb and flow of the masses.
Yeah.
Just remember, if you want to rule Rome, engage the mob.
Oh, hold on. Hold the frick on, dude. Hold
What's
on.
up?
I might actually, well, I mean, it has no bearing on what we're doing right here. I'm yelling at myself to hold on. Give me a second. I have to get through all the JM Truth bullshit that I have saved to laugh at him.
I like Off the Hook's comment, though, about it's not his manny cam, it's his nanny cam.
Yes, nanny cam. Damn, no, I don't. I have 2 other fucking of my old school videos that I did that were more just like commentary videos. Oh my god. Oh, wait, whoa. Maybe it's in my trash. Hold on. No, fuck. No. Okay, I'm whack.
All right. Ready to start this?
Yes.
See if this, hopefully it's not too loud for the audience.
Before the fight, I often think about things like Theresa May closing women's refuges, or I think about the man that catcalled me on the street.
What?
Hold on, pause it there. Look at that. I'm going to ask you guys something, okay? And this is not trying to be sexist or anything, but do you really think that it's men catcalling these women? I mean, look at the one like second to the left. Now, front half of her head. Cool. Hey, express yourself. But this is about oppression here, right? Feminism is all about oppression. Look at the one like second to the left.
Sorry.
Oh, great. I'm hearing myself. Okay. Go ahead.
So I could see the 2 in the bottom middle. Those 2 I could see getting catcalled as they are right now.
Oh, I think the one with the shaved head, the blonde with the shaved head and the red, I'd catcall the shit out of her. Like, hey, baby.
She might.
Let me check my reflection in your head real quick.
But definitely the 2 at the bottom would. Not the one in the left corner.
Oh, what the heck? Did you see that person? Look at the very bottom left over there. That's horrible looking. I don't know what that is. Is that a dude? Like that has to be something that was added in there.
That looks like what's her name from Exorcist?
Yeah, like it looks like a demon or something.
Are you objectifying them to prove they don't get objectified? Well, I'm curious to know which one made that statement about using being catcalled as motivation for the fight.
Dude, people are people. They're going like that's what we're all here for. We're here to procreate, guys. How do we procreate? How are we ever to meet a woman if we don't come forward, even if it's in our own awkward way? For some men, that's all they know. They can't hold a conversation. They can do that catcalling shit, but the moment that a chick turns around and comes there, guess what they do? They grab their fucking lunch and walk the other way because they're like, oh shit, she's coming back to talk to me.
Off the hooks comment.
It's like, oh fuck, it worked. What do I do now? What do I do? Shit, I'm not prepared for this.
Look at off the hooks comment.
I wouldn't know, but maybe.
All right. More garbage.
Well, I was going to say this. There is a line that I've used on. I've used it ironically once, unironically one other time. Both times it worked.
Yes, 1 minute debunk. It's a bunch of guys explaining how certain women don't get catcalled. It's that's not exactly what we're doing. It's
at this point, it's taking the claim and showing how, from a heterosexual male standpoint, a couple of these women we can see being catcalled based on appearance alone.
mm-hmm.
The others kind of makes you wonder how drunk the guys were.
No, this is what third wave feminism is all about. It's about a secluded group of people who these people are unique in their own way. Okay, they get secluded from society because they are themselves, and that's totally fine. I want them to be them. Look, they look happy, right? But third wave feminism is all about oppression that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have women talking about, oh my God, I get just berated, men grab my ass at the grocery store like nonstop, you got to sometimes look back and go, what ass? You know, like if I was, which guys are these guys that are grabbing your ass? Because I don't see the ass that they want to grab. Are you making this up just to show that you're marginalized? And if that's the case, that's fucking wrong. Because then that's putting blame on somebody that doesn't deserve blame. You can't just blame men for problems and just make something up and go, well, men are responsible for grabbing my ass when no man's ever grabbed your fucking ass.
It's the victim points thing again.
Right,
Exactly.
right. It's being a victim.
And with the victim mentality, it's so easy for people to just believe the victim because that's what this whole movement's trying to tell people. Hashtag me too. Believe me above all else. I mean, my biggest case to go against the whole Me Too movement is the Duke lacrosse team case. You know, the lady who claimed to have been assaulted and raped, turned out her story wasn't consistent. She didn't have anything to go against it, and she basically ruined these guys' lives.
Oh, there was a
Mattress Girl. Mattress Girl is
yeah.
the one that was worst for me.
There was
like, piece of shit.
There was a top tier athlete coming, I want to say, out of high school into college. A chick that he didn't want anything to do with made the claim of him raping her, got him sent to jail, screwing up his college scholarship, screwing up his education, screwing up his future entirely. He was in jail for, it was either 3 or 5 years. And she finally came out and said, yeah, I made it up.
Yeah.
And,
no,
you know what you are, according to a third wave feminist right now, Jared? You're a rape apologist.
Yep.
Because you know what? You should never, ever question somebody when they say something, right? You should never question if someone just says, oh, yeah, I was raped by Jared. Hey, I just made the claim right now. Don't question it. If you question it, you're a fucking rape apologist defending a rapist.
Well,
Jared was attracted to your mullet.
Here's the problem there, skeptic. I can't rape the willing.
Shit. You're not supposed to share our text messages live. Now, what I will say is that if you are convicted under due process for rape, then you should definitely go to prison. And I think they let a lot of people off lightly. I think if you rape somebody and you get convicted of it, I think that's kind of showing that you just don't give a shit about social behavior, pro-social behavior. So you should definitely be put in prison for a long time. A lot, like I said, a lot longer than they put some of these people in who are actually convicted.
I want to bring up a 1 minute debunks comment here. Sexual harassment doesn't exist for people who you don't personally find sexually attractive. Cool story, bro.
No, it's called not taking a claim at face value.
Yeah, I don't think that he's getting that right.
Yeah.
You obviously missed my point about when someone just makes the claim and you question the claim. Like, let's say a homeless person comes up to you and says, I'm a multi-billionaire, and he smells like alcohol, fucking dressed in rags. You're going to question that, right? Well, are you a piece of shit for questioning that? No, you're not a fucking piece of shit for questioning it. You just question the claim. I question that claim. I highly doubt that they are oppressed with catcalls walking down the street. Those are not the girls that get catcalled. And if they are, it's typical male behavior. It's not appreciated, I'm sure. And I'm not defending the male. I'm just saying that it happens. It's going to happen. We're guys. We're humans. We are born with testosterone that exceeds the chemical makeup in our brain that helps us control that shit. I do it fucking all the time.
Yep.
Casual Spaceman, we had a situation in Northern Ireland where a woman was allegedly raped by a rugby player, but the whole SJW campaign was, I believe her. Without question, she was believed. Why? Because she was a woman.
And that's the whole point about the Me Too movement. That's the issue I have with it. Is all it takes is an allegation, and I can lose my job.
Yeah. You can get your entire life ruined on a simple allegation just because someone says, "Oh yeah, Jay Brown, he looked at me wrong, and I personally was offended." Okay, well, Jay Brown, you're an eye rapist now.
No, like seriously, I'm the assistant manager at my job, and I refuse to have conversations with my female coworkers that I have to actually do any sort of discipline without another person present, another team from management from another store, my actual manager, why she would be doing it herself, but having somebody else that's there to back up the story if it is put out that I'm being accused of doing something to a woman, because it's not fair to me to be accused of something and then have my life ruined when I didn't do anything. Now, if I actually do something, then by all means, prosecute me all the way to jail. That's what I deserve. But I'm not that type of person. So why should I be at work constantly walking on eggshells and in fear of the potential of that? I know that the percentage of it happening to me is very, very low, but that doesn't negate that I shouldn't at least be cautious about it. Much like the precautions I've been taking for this stream itself. So
I love how 1 minute debunks in there. Like we're like supposedly debating this topic and we're committing fallacies and this and that. We're fucking laughing at some stupid fucking people. Okay, that's what we're doing. So yes, guess what? Go ahead and get it all out. We're going to commit ad hom as well. We're going to be doing some probably red herrings. Any other fallacy you want to get out now and accuse us of before we move forward, go ahead and do it, and we'll go ahead and agree with it, because we're not actually debating this topic. We're just laughing at stupid people.
Can I call the fallacy on him?
God, man, you talk about somebody that probably just sits there and fucking reads debate books and fallacy books and it's like, I have to be knowledgeable about one thing, and I better be knowledgeable about everything, being able to call a fallacy on everything somebody says. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. Salty. Yeah, I'm fucking a sailor. That's what happens.
The rugby player's career was ended because he was convicted on a slightly lesser charge. The evidence was loose, to say the least. And that's much like, that's much like the Duke lacrosse case, the mattress girls case. Is these people's lives were ruined without even a conviction. Here in the United States, we're supposed to have the right to due process, but unfortunately, the court of public opinion weighs more than the actual court of law.
Right.
Well, I have a question for 1 minute debunk. Do you understand what the difference between being a skeptic and being a denialist is?
I highly doubt he understands anything about denialism versus skepticism. Skepticism means I just don't believe you because you say so. That's it. I need your empirical evidence to back what you're saying before I just believe you and go let the rest of my worldview be affected by what you said.
And a prime example that I can point out where actually Red and I agree with our read of this situation. The whole BS around the Kavanaugh appointment. Do we think he's innocent? No. Do we think that Blasey Ford was sexually assaulted at some point? Yeah, we think she was, but we can't prove who. So rather than punish someone just because, no. If you are going to punish someone for a crime, you need to have evidentiary support of that crime.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my whole thing with the Kavanaugh debate was the same thing. Yes, she might have been sexually assaulted, but was it specifically Brett Kavanaugh? Was it one of his friends? Was it even at this party that she supposedly went to that nobody else can corroborate? That's the problem with this type of mentality, is that it's accusation first and guilty until proven innocent. But that's not how our court of law is founded.
On with the stupid.
Yep.
I'm ready to laugh at stupid people. I haven't seen this video in a long time, and it's really dumb.
My name is Phoebe Beatty Ferguson, and I founded FemFeral.
Hey, can you go and
FemFeral is a
go
queer-
back and see if she's the one that said that she gets catcalled?
Well, that's the thing. When that comment was made, it was during that montage, so there really wasn't a face put to that.
Yeah.
It's just the voice. I mean, it could be her. Let's see.
On the fight, I often think about things like Theresa May closing women's refuges, or I think about the man that catcalled me on the street.
Okay, so that. Sorry if it's a little loud. I want to make sure that we all heard that.
My name is Phoebe Beatty Ferguson.
It sounds like her.
That is her. Mm-hmm.
FemFeral is a queer fighting force.
I'm a bit skeptical
we
of
want
that
to
claim.
destroy the Conservative government. We want to bring down the
How's that volume for
patriarchy.
everybody?
We want to take up space. We want to make lots of noise.
Good on this end.
We're really
That's
angry about
exactly
the way
right
that
there. What she
women
said,
and
that's
femme
third wave
identifying
feminism
people.
for you right there. Everything she just said. Take down the conservative government. Do this, do that, make noise, take up place. In other words, be special. Be more special than you were if you were just a normal person. You want to be super normal. You want to be above everybody else. You want to be recognized. We all have that. That's human nature. It also is what leads us to do stupid shit like be fucking make claims that or fight for something that doesn't need to be fought for.
And here's the thing that I love to point out and remind people of. Everyone is an individual. Everyone has the right to express their individuality. But to say that everyone is special means that no one is special.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is the way it is. Everybody is so fucking special that nobody's special. Exactly what I was saying about intersectionality. That's what intersectionality does. It says, oh, we're going to fight for women. And then it says, you get to the point where you go, well, what about white women? They don't really need to be fought for as much as black women. So let's trim the white women out of the feminist movement, which they did. Look into Taylor Swift.
I got a notification that they're going to try and shut down my stream because of this embedded video here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, don't play anymore. But anyway, yeah, they did that. They did that shit to fucking Taylor Swift. She was fucking part of the feminist movement, but guess what? She wasn't pushing the feminist narrative that the feminists wanted to hear. She was supporting right wingers. Well, guess what? To be a feminist, you had to be a left feminist. What'd they do? Intersectionality took over, and they just pushed her out. Yep. So now Taylor Swift, she's a feminist, but she's not the right type of feminist. Eventually, intersectionality pushes out more and more and more people until you get to one person who's unique anyway. And then everybody, you can't do that. You can't allow intersectionality to fucking come in and take over.
Yeah. And that's the crux of it, is I don't have an issue with people being treated equally. I don't have an issue with any of that. But as soon as you start elevating certain statuses or demographics above others, you
Preferential treatment.
you no
Yeah.
longer you no longer have an actual society at that point. You go back to basically what we had for society back in, the
You
medieval
don't
times.
fight sexism with sexism, okay? You let natural selection do it all. First off, people that are sexist, natural selection will take care of those people. Just give it time, all right? It's worked, right? I mean, look at us from the 60s and look where we are today. A lot's changed. Time works. And when you give time, what ends up happening is the businesses that are most suited to survive and continue on, they're the businesses that survive and continue on. But look at those businesses. Those are the ones whose models involve all types of people, women, men, different races. I mean, think about the NBA, right? Think about the NBA. If we were to say, if we were to look at the NBA and say, let's just make the NBA equal to what it is by population. So we need so many Hispanics, we need so many African Americans, we need so many white people. What happens to that product? Who's watching the NBA at that point?
It goes downhill.
Right. So you can't just use social constructs to base people's personal decisions, that the right to make your own personal decision.
Mhm.
A business owner has to do what's right for his business. If he allows sexism and racism and all this other stuff to cloud his vision and get in the way of what's best for his business will die off and will be replaced by a business that is more suited to succeed. And that the businesses that are most suited are not going to be suited by social constructs. They're going to be suited by individual situations.
Well, so Kitsune Cavalier said, I hope that you're right, Team Skeptic. And I think that is in reference to the sexist people let natural selection kind of weed them out.
Yeah.
Prime examples, Write the Hand, Why You Are an Idiot. Do you really think those two people are going to...
Okay, I'm not really talking about sexist. I'm really not talking about people at this point. I'm talking about entities like businesses.
And that too, you can take it in both directions. Where if you let people kind of have the freedom to express themselves as they so desire, people with those socially unaccepted ideologies are going to be pushed to the fringes, and they're eventually going to stagnate and fall off. That is the thing. You will have that in business. You'll have that in social circles. You'll have that in biology. If we let that take place.
If you go back to the example I gave with the NBA, right? The NBA used to be mostly white people, right? Mostly white people. So if they would have stuck with that system, right, they would be unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. If they were to say, okay, let's do this whole socialism thing. Let's make sure that all social social groups, right, are represented perfectly. So we'll just stick with race because we'll say it's men's basketball. We won't even take in, sexual preference. We'll just stick with race. And we say, okay, well, like I said, we want this many Hispanics, this many whites, this many African Americans, because then each race is being properly represented by, their proportion of the total American population. So then you look at the product and you go, what's wrong with the product? Why is the product not best? Well, that's because you're taking the freedom away from the people to make their own decisions and come up with what they believe to be the best for themselves. Now, if they're wrong, that's fine. They're not going to make it. The one that is most right is going to be the one that makes it. And if the one that is most right is one that follows social, the social structures, then that's the one that's going to make it. If the one that makes it says, well, we're going to employ 90% African Americans because that's going to make our product better, then they're the ones that are going to make it because they're doing what's best for their product. And the only thing that's going to determine that is time. You give both of them time and you see which product is better, which company survives, which one didn't.
Oh yeah. And,
Natural selection at its finest, evolution.
And that's just it, is that people don't see the market that way. They don't see the real world that way. They see it as your business is doing something I don't like, so we have to put an end to it. And then you get companies like Gillette putting out the ads that they have been putting out. You get Burger King putting out the emotion meals or whatever they were called. That just did you see that?
No,
I
emotion
I
meals.
think I missed that one.
Oh, Irate Alex did a video on it because he has two channels, Irate Bear and Irate Alex. He uses Irate Bear for the politics, but he uses Irate Alex to kind of make fun of things, but also talks about mental health. And specifically, it was a month ago. It looks like a little over a month ago. Burger King's tone deaf mental health campaign. Hashtag feel your way. If you get a chance, go watch that. That is one of his better videos on there. And you can't go wrong with his Alex reacts to road rage in Britain videos.
Which, thinking about it, we should try to find a way to get him on VTW because imagine how hilarious that episode would end up being.
Well, that's just it. Is we do it so late for him, and he's been streaming for at least 2 to 3 hours before with Ghost Blue podcast.
That's right. He does that right before.
Might have to do a special one where we could try and get him on like on a Saturday night or a Thursday night or something.
Well, one thing, I wish I had that original video and I played it because I did the whole idiot thing and counted them up and all this. It was funny. But ultimately in that video, I pointed out how there is need in this world for feminism. There is, absolutely. Look at the Middle East. They still have like very barbaric laws against women, and so areas of the world that need people to stand up, but those areas are going through first wave feminism in those areas. We don't need the same. The women in our countries, in the UK and America and Germany and like very civilized portions of the world, the women typically have the rights of the men. In fact, like in America, I would think women have more rights because they have the right to, like, there's rights regarding pregnancy that we'll just never have the need for those rights. Like I'm 100% against having male paternity leave. I think that's like third wave maleist or whatever you want to call it.
Men's rights.
Yeah, I think that's pretty ridiculous. I think that companies shouldn't have to pay so that a man could be there for his first 6 weeks of his kid. It's not that I'm against men doing that. I just don't personally believe it should be done. I think that's trying to reach for rights. And I hate when people reach for rights. It's the stupidest shit in the world, is when they just reach for something to just be seen.
Yeah.
If you want to be seen about something that's good, that's necessary in the world, not something that's fucked up. Not something that's fake.
Well, and something like that, like with the paternity leave, that is a benefit when you really look at it, because at least the length of it, because in a 2-parent household, how much time does the father really need to stay away from work that cannot otherwise be covered by regular vacation or paid time off if available?
Now,
this is where you get into the dynamics of the type of job that they have to begin with.
Yeah, and 1 minute debunk says some male paternity leave was great for me, but in this country it's only 2 weeks. See, I'm okay with having something like that, but there's the men over here. Some of these guys are fighting for months of time off just to be with their wife. What they're really fighting for is just time off. Go to work. Somebody needs to feed the family. Go to work. Don't put it on the company to feed the family, because guess what that's going to do? That's just going to raise the prices on everything across the board, because now they got to get that money back somehow. And they're going to look at it as a loss on one end. They're going to need to make that loss up on the other end. And that, guess how they're going to do it? It's going to be felt on the consumer.
Yeah, I as somebody who doesn't have a kid, as much as I would love to have a kid right now, there's no way I could afford to take any sort of paternity leave or even take paid time off to be at home with my child, especially if paid paternity leave was paid the same way that my vacation pay is paid out or anything else. It's not that I should be there because I will be there. I'll be there after work. I can help out when I get home. Yes, I might be exhausted, but the least I can do is help out my wife. Why do I have to be home 24 hours a day for 6, 7, 8, even sometimes up to 9 months at a time to help her out? It's not that I can't do that in my own time when I'm at home after work. You know
And
how?
Kitsune, I agree with you about capital. Sorry, Jay.
Yeah.
He said capitalism is not regulated enough. It's a fine line because I really don't want government involved in businesses, but the problem you see in business, especially in capitalism, is when it's all about who's making the most. So if I'm a company and you're a company and you put a product out and your product is slightly better than mine, but you're making $1 more than me per product sold, well, I want to put out a product that's a little bit better than his so that I can sell a little bit more for a little bit more. Well, the thing is that we're just making more money. We're just making more money because it's not about the cost of the product. The cost of the product still goes up, but the profit is what you're worried about. You're not looking at the cost of the product from the business owner standpoint. You're looking and seeing your competitors making $5 per unit that he sells, and you want to make more than him because that's in the capitalist society. That's what denotes who is the most successful of the people. So I just feel that sometimes unchecked capitalism will beget greed. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like to some extent to where the product gets so expensive that nobody's buying it and then there's an overstock of it and then it drops down in price, and then when it gets back down to price then everybody's buying it again and it goes back up in price. But it's a greed game, man. They just want to put that money in their pockets. That's what it's all about. Capitalism. Money, 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 money right in your pocket.
And here's the thing: is like I can understand, in 1 minute Debunk's situation that when he went back to work after his paternity leave, his child's still being in neonatal intensive care. I can understand, wanting more time in those situations, and I get that. At the same time,
That's really for anybody that's in the hospital. If your kid's 3 years old and he goes into the hospital,
I get that entirely.
Time. So in that situation, yes, of course, but I wouldn't consider that paternal leave. I would consider that like you're just
Medical emergency leave type
yeah,
thing.
medical emergency leave.
And here's the thing: is one thing that I've noticed with my friends that have had kids that have gone through situations like having C-sections and things like this. There's a certain aspect of life that we as a society have gone away with, especially here in the U.S., and that is being being an actual family. My family, we were close up until my parents divorced. But if my parents needed help, we had my aunt and uncle that lived in the same town. They would help them out by allowing us to come stay with them so that they could go take care of something. Or if one of us was sick, they would come get us. We even had my grandparents who traveled around the country to all their kids. They would just randomly show up when it just seemed like at the moment's notice that they were there because we didn't have cell phones when I was growing up, but they always seemed to show up right at the most timely points in life to help out the family. We don't do that enough as a society these days. I've got friends that complain that their parents won't help them babysit, when they want to go out. I mean, how hard is it to help out your family on something when in a situation where they need help? I mean, we're such a great community. Look what we've done for Sean and what we've done for Off the Hook. Why can't we do that within our own families? And I'm not saying that everybody's family doesn't do that. I'm just saying that in general, this is what I've noticed amongst my group of friends is that the family unit is gone. It's all just individuals.
I like what the Kitsune Cavalier said. Said companies in Italy, for example, do better because they allow so much more paid time off. They also have longer lunch breaks. See, that goes back to what I was saying about what works. Having that ability to test something and find something that works and going with what works. That's what works. If like
works for them.
if it worked for them, exactly, if it worked for them, it's beneficial for them to follow that model. And any one of the companies in that country that doesn't follow that model is going to fall off. It's just going to happen because that's what works for them, unless a better system comes along that replaces that system, that gives a better, if more efficient and effective product and output, then they're going to change. It's just the way you have to do it. That's the way companies work, you know?
And that's just it. Is just because it's working in Italy doesn't mean it's going to work in France. It doesn't mean it's going to work here in the US or Canada or anywhere else in the world. It is about the core social values that the society of that country has. And the problem is in our country is we're fracturing away from being an actual country and being more individualistic. And that is the problem. You know, you got too many people that are trying to fracture communities. I mean, just look at the atheist community on YouTube. How many people have attacked Steve and Godless Engineer and whatnot over siding with Rationality Rules on the fact that he shouldn't have been he shouldn't have been continually called out like he was after he made his apologies and stuff, you know?
Well, let's call a lot of those fractures what they really are. Started and spurred on because of bullshit.
Exactly.
You have people with egos and hurt feelings stemming from some slight some time ago that just capitalized on the situation.
Yep. And
they're not right either. That shit's fucked up. Rationality, in my opinion, Rationality Rules was not being transphobic. I went and watched the video myself. I got a chance to meet the dude when he was in Dallas. He was a good guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, that I don't particularly talk about that, like those topics. Steve and Kyle's the most in the best position to talk about that. So I just defer to him. I do think that, you know, when the question I posted earlier, you know, I really, really wonder how feminists feel about the, you know, trans people breaking women's records. I'm not trying to be transphobic about it. I would just like to know how a feminist feels about it. You know, it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't affect me. So I just want to know how a feminist feels about it.
Yeah. It's the curiosity, because if you don't have a consistent avenue to interact with that group, you're not going to know. And that's the thing. We're both curious motherfuckers. We see something like this, it's like, it really doesn't affect us either way. And like that whole thing with Rationality Rules, even when Rhetoric and Discourse started to cover it on one of his Longer and Harder streams, I merely was pointing out that, hey, the question is a valid question. Just how much does the transition really affect athletic performance? We don't know.
Now, let me ask you a question, Jared. Does the NCAA, does it give out men's and women's scholarships to schools, or does it just give out a group of scholarships that's given out by the school to men or women?
They are designated between men's sports and women's sports, and also the number of scholarships per sport. They are actually very controlled with how that is all broken up.
But the NCAA dictates how many men's scholarships and how many women's scholarships are given?
Yes, and also this school gets this many scholarships for this men's sports.
Just out of curiosity, what would you do if you were a university and you had a track and field team? Would you want to give your scholarships to women, or would you want to give, or to qualified women? I'm not just saying women in general. Or would you, if you saw a trans person that was well ahead of the class, would you give it to that person? That's a question I want to know from. I'm not an athletic director. I'm on the outside trying to understand all this. So those are the questions that come to me when I'm trying to sit back and rationalize all this in my head, because I stand for trans rights. I don't think there shouldn't be I don't think trans people should be kept out of the Olympics. I don't think trans people should be kept out of attempting world records. I think that they should have every right that I have, and every right that a woman has as well when it comes to athletics. I think that it should be fair competition. Yep. But do you just completely eliminate the male and female designation and just say we're just going to have one world record by one person. It's no longer going to be a male and female world record. We're just going to have one world record by one person. Or do they just allow people from, that identify as whatever they want to identify as? And that's not trying to be insensitive. I'm just trying to generalize this.
Well, and my thought process on that, when it comes to the grander scheme of athletics in general, if it is a non-contact individual type of sport, why is there really a gender division to begin with? Like, think about archery and shooting competitions and individual avenues like that. Why is there that delineation at certain levels? I don't agree with that. So and in those realms, it really doesn't matter if you are, if your gender is a typical binary or if you are an actual transgender individual. It doesn't matter in those circumstances. Where I see the issue coming in are your team sports and especially your contact sports.
Right. But I mean, we still have to come to some agreement as a society how we're going to judge this, whether we're going to judge this by certain standards or if we're just going to remove all standards and just say, look, it's too complicated. Because I'm telling you guys, I see this coming. I see the same thing that you see everywhere else you look in every business that's out there. They all just say, okay, you know what? To avoid being caught up in this, let's put it out of our hands. Let's just give whether it's not asking the gender or sex or just giving the gender or sex a completely open option. You're removing the standards that are set, and when you're talking about athletics, that's a little bit different. I can understand like something as simple as applying for college or something like that. Everything should be completely fair. But if you're given an unfair advantage, and I don't think it's fair for the people that were not born with that advantage, and it's something that we need to see as a society. We need to come to an agreement on how is this going to be addressed, because we're starting to see it more and more, and it's popping up, and everybody is right to some extent. Everybody is right, but as a whole, we're wrong. Something as a whole is going to result in some person getting. Again, intersectionalization is going to seclude one of those groups that were normally included because you're going to want to include the other group.
Well, Harvard, I think is Harvard or MIT, one of them was actually denying scholarships to academically qualified white and Asian people for basically the equivalent of
diversity reasons.
Yeah. And people are like, well, I'm Asian. I'm a minority. I should be included. Well, no, because you've got an advantage of, having a more stable home, etc. Things like that. That's what, though they didn't say that directly, that's the conclusion that many people are seeing, is that because you can see where a household can produce a better academic child, can produce better socially more balanced child. Not always, but they can. It happens to prove that they're not it happens to make them less of a minority than they actually are, because the Asian population isn't all that great in the US, relatively speaking, compared to other minorities. The other thing is in the UK recently I read that there's a university that actually started a affirmative action scholarship program for white males, because the demographics are so skewed that they offered different scholarships to white men. And I don't necessarily think that college should be free per se. I think trade schools and things like that should be free, because we do need more trade oriented people, electricians and things like that. Not everybody needs a college education to make a living.
Yeah, our biggest problem in America right now is that no kid left behind. I'm sorry, but if the kid's dumb, just leave him behind. Okay, let
Well-
him stay. Let him stay in school one more year. Let him relearn that material, because it's more important for him to understand the material properly than it is to just push him through the system. And that frustrates me. It's why we have flat earthers right now. If we didn't do that, we'd have 1,000 times less flat earthers. And that's, my humble opinion. Just listening to them talk in their videos, you can tell that some of them needed another year in school. Some probably in the second or third grade, when they were just developing their learning techniques and somebody wasn't teaching them right, and they just pushed them through. They just said, go, just come on, man. Keep up with the class. You can do it. You can do it. Well, when he gets to 3 or 4 years later and he's still fucking 2 years behind, now he's way further behind because
Yep.
the class has continued on past him.
It
He's taught
snowballs.
in his class stuff that he doesn't know. It doesn't even have the basis of knowledge, because we were more concerned with pushing him to the next level instead of ensuring that the quality of his education was correct.
Well,
And it frustrates me the shit. Oh my God.
Well, and then add on to that, my generation was right in that realm, and then they added on the standardized testing on top of it, which actually ended up taking away from actual instruction time of the teachers to where, well, now we need to do this test prep for this state or federal standardized test that you're going to be having in a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. It's really hard to talk on these topics because we all talk from an outside perspective. None of us are on the inside trying to see what's going on. With the feelings that everybody has, it's almost impossible to leave somebody behind without hurting their feelings. And if their feelings are more important than their education, then by all means, push them through. Setting them up for failure, you're fucking up the human race.
Well, and here's the thing. My mother-in-law is an educator here in my state, and she and I have spoke about this, and she has said, oh, you thought it was bad when you guys were in school? It's even worse now when it comes to the lost time due to standardized testing. And it's really made it difficult for her. And then again, you have that push for progression through the grades, because these metrics are directly affecting not just the school system's funding, but also they are finding ways to work it into teacher evaluations, which then affects their pay.
Yeah.
I have several friends that are teachers, and they just really teach to a test. And they want to expand on so many different topics that they can't, because they have to follow the curriculum set down by the testing. And again, me growing up, again, a different experience than other people. We had standardized tests, but they weren't. The standardized test was just to make just an assessment. It wasn't actually a way of you advancing on or into the next grade. I'm lucky when they started coming out with the No Child Left Behind and all that other stuff. That was in the mid 90s. And the class after me had to take what was then called the Washington Academic Standard, or Washington Assessment of Standard Learning or something, WASL. I didn't have to take that test, but I guarantee if I did, I probably would have failed to meet their standards, But I'm not an idiot. I just by the way. But I just happen to learn differently than everybody else. I'm a visual and auditory learner. So if I can't learn it visually, I go back and have somebody talk me through it rather than showing me how to do it, And I can usually pick it up. If I can't understand it audibly, I'll have somebody show me. It's like when I'm fixing things around the house that we're renting, I'll grab a YouTube video because I'll watch it first, and if I don't understand it, as long as I'm sitting there watching we're looking at the parts that I'm dealing with, I can get along just fine. And that's what we need to do, is we need to figure out what each student needs. And it doesn't have to be a 1-to-1 ratio of teachers to students, obviously, but it'll allow the teachers to teach to the child and know who's going to need more help than the others,
Yeah. And that's the thing, is by implementing a lot of these standards and practices and manipulations to it, it really is doing a disservice to the subsequent and future generations. Like, I'll admit, at first I was critical of Common Core because what I saw was such an elaborate and drawn out way to teach what I understood as a simple topic. But then I'm really 50-50 on it. I'm not as hardline against it as I was initially because there is merit to the manner that it's done. And I think that's because they, at least the school systems around me that I had to deal with and was evaluating, they used the Common Core methodologies alongside of the classical. So for the people who are a little more visual in getting the topic at hand, especially when it came to the mathematics stuff, the Common Core helps people who are more visual learners to piece it together in their head. And then they can then apply it to the classical manner of doing it and speed up the process.
Jared, what's 16 times 14 using Common Core? How do you figure that out? I can do it in my head instantly.
Yeah, it'd be 10 by 10. So you would do a 4 square, 10 and 6 on one side, 10 and 4 on the other. So you'd end up having 100, 60, 40, and then 6 by 4, add it all up.
Wow. The way I was taught was so different. I wouldn't even really taught. I was taught to do it all in my head. So when I hear like, I mean, you can't do like big numbers, of course, but when you hear like two smaller numbers and you want to just do it, I just hear, 16 times 14 is nothing more than 16 times 10 plus 16 times 4. And to me, that just snaps real quick. Because
Yeah.
60 plus 64, 224.
Yeah.
I don't
So
draw out and all that. It just seems like it
is an extra step because you're breaking up both numbers, but you're supposed to be breaking it up to more manageable numbers and then doing the addition.
I want to address the question that was brought up because that is that's a good question right there. Is my question on transgender women competing in all cisgender female sports? Is it okay if or in certain sports? That's what Jared was saying. Like, does it really make a difference in archery? Well, maybe not. We don't. We would have to get the data on it. But is it in like if they were playing, let's say, women's lacrosse? There's probably an advantage there.
Yeah. So and that's where my standard my personal evaluation of it, where I raise the question, are those sports that do have the potential or have the known risk of contact. Lacrosse, field hockey, even
Ice
soccer.
hockey.
Yep, ice hockey.
Basketball.
Yep, basketball. Those contact type of sports are where I see the biggest liability is from an injury standpoint.
Yeah, it's competitive advantage too. And something like that, if there's a competitive advantage, if it's not just an injury related, that's the whole thing. Like, think of weightlifting. It's not like you're gonna hurt somebody, a female contestant, by having a transgender competitor. You're not going to physically hurt that person, but is there really a competitive advantage there given to the transgender person? That's what we need to find out as a society, is if there is, because I'm okay. Look, I'm totally okay with them saying, let's give them their own medals. Like, let's do men, women, and
then an open division.
Or open. No, you can't really do open because then you'll just have men going in there trying to compete in that division too.
Yeah,
so it's just so hard to. That's just one of those things, man. It's just one of those things that you can't. There is no right answer. No matter which way we look at it, there's no right answer because intersectionality is going to that's going to cross section out somebody out of that equation. Somebody's going to get fucked. Whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, or whether it's a transgender, somebody's getting fucking screwed by whatever the final outcome is on the decision. So it's not right. There is no right answer. Get rid of it all. Get rid of it all, and whoever can lift the most weights, that's the world record holder. There you go.
Yeah, and like I said, it's really tough, and given the lack of data, there is no clean answer. There is no simple answer, and that's the problem, and that's where a lot of people end up falling back into that emotional argument standpoint, to which I say no. If you're going to try to argue and debate it from an emotional standpoint, it's, to me, at that point, it is not a discussion worth having, because this is a question that, to me, requires a rational approach.
So
And,
let me point something out. 1 minute Dunk pointed out something really good. It's because sports are constructed in a prejudiced way, but that's what sports are.
Yeah.
It's a competition. You have to be prejudiced. You can't just say, "Oh man, you know what? You're designed to be a kicker, but you really want to play quarterback. So today we're going to play quarterback because you really want to, and you identify as a quarterback on this football team."
Here
So
here in Washington for high school sports, girls can go and play sports with the boys, provided that the schools and the state don't offer a equivalent in the
girls
female
division.
in the girls division.
I would be okay with letting
And-
women come up and compete in the men's.
My senior year of high school baseball, we had a female catcher, and the 2 seasons later after that, after the football season, two seasons after that, we had a girl playing linebacker, and we played 8-man football. So I mean, it's all lean cut people for the most part, anyways. So, but they both excelled at what they did. Now the female catcher got dropped from the team because she couldn't keep her grades up, but talent-wise, she was able to compete. But as a guy, if I wanted to play volleyball, since there's no male equivalent to that in our high school sports area, I wouldn't be able to go play with the girls.
Oh, it was a one-way exemption.
It was,
and there's
and
a lot
still
of
is.
have multi gender or sex. I don't know how we're going to. I don't even want to say
Co-ed
it.
teams.
Co-ed teams. I'm okay with that too. And Kitson Cavalier said, "Have you seen how brutal female field hockey and lacrosse players are?"
Oh yes.
I would fucking love to see a woman just cross-check the shit out of some beefy, meaty dude and just lay him on the ground, look down on him, and then teabag him once before she runs off. That would be amazing. I'd pay to see that.
Oh, and here's the thing. When you look at women's field hockey and the lack of protective equipment that they play in, and they're that physical, them women are hardcore, and I love it.
Every DVR in my house is set to women's field hockey when it comes to Olympics time. Because that is so brutal.
When Venus and Serena Williams were at the top of their game, I'm sure they could have beat 98% of the men out there. Not even to say that they couldn't beat a whole 100%, but I'm going to say 98% they would have shit on. But they're anomalies. They should be allowed. If they wanted to come in and compete in the men's, I'd say let them. Mm-hmm. Let them come in and show Federer and all these other guys how to play tennis. I'm okay with that.
And actually, in golf,
it wouldn't be all right with it.
In golf, in the PGA, it happened. Who was it? Was it Michelle Wie or one of the other female?
It was Michelle Wie, I think.
Yeah, she actually competed at a few events on the PGA. And again, that you have those individualized types of sports where you can have that cross between the current gender division, simply because you have what it would be termed a generational athlete, and the Williams sisters would qualify as that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's when it comes to the generational athletes, those athletes are some of the greatest and phenomenal players you will ever get a chance to see, and if you get to see them, it changes your life experience as a sports fan for ages, you know? Because how often do you, as much as I rag on the Patriots as a sports fan, if I had a chance to go see the Patriots and see Tom Brady, I would enjoy the heck out of that, even if he came and clobbered the Seahawks or whatever. If I had the opportunity to see somebody who can play the game at its best. And the same thing like pitching duels. I love watching pitching duels. Most people hate them because they're boring.
Oh,
If
I
you
like
But
too.
but the people who find it boring don't understand the strategy and the chess match that's going on, because it's not just a singular one-on-one battle between the pitcher and catcher combination and the batter.
Yeah.
There's a lot more nuance to it. It's pitch by pitch adjustments. It's at bat to at bat adjustments. But then again, I played baseball. I was a catcher, pitcher, middle infielder. I was always in the middle of that chess match.
I've seen scouting reports from pro teams that are like this big on batters for
Oh,
pitchers.
and that, yeah, single batter.
Yeah.
Hey, 1 minute debunk said the 203rd ranked tennis pro pretty much wiped the floor with both of them.
Yeah, but they're on their way out as pros anyway.
But
right
hey,
now.
that goes to show, what was that? I just saw a picture of that transgender person that set the women's sprint record or something like that. Was ranked like 300th in the world in the male division. Got the transition and won, and then broke the record. Either broke the record or is now ranked number 1 in the world in the women's division. I have to find that. Is that? Let's see.
That's, I was staying corrected there. 1 minute debunked about it being in 1998. And a lot of these single player sports, and even some of the team aspect sports of it with tennis, it's just like football. You know what we say here in America for American football. On any given Sunday, a team can win. You know, you can't count out the Cleveland Browns. Even when the Lions went 0-16, you couldn't count the Lions out every week because they still fought to make it up until the end. But you know,
well, yeah, in their winless season, they were in a lot of the games until late.
And that's just it. As a paid professional athlete, you don't get paid if you don't try. Really, I mean, you go down in the rankings. Your fan base moves on if you're a team sport. You know.
Well, and so when you let's take the Lions as an example. Yes, being on the active roster, you get your game check. However, poor performance throughout the season or even during a season, NFL contracts are the least guaranteed contract of any of the major professional sports in North America. With on the other end of the spectrum, you have baseball. Baseball are the most guaranteed. Like literally, you can sign a 10-year fucking ridiculous amount contract,
A-Rod,
and literally fuck off the rest of the time. You are still owed that money.
And a perfect example of this is A-Rod. When he left Seattle, he still had part of a contract due because he was allowed to go to free agency a couple years early as part of the contract. He went to the Rangers. The time that he was at the Rangers, he went through the Mariners contract, but still had a crap ton on there. And then he gets traded to New York, I think. From New York, he played like 10 seasons with New York before he finally got rid of his Rangers contract and was solely working on his New York contract. That is, what other sport does that happen in? You know?
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he spent the first couple years in Texas on the Texas deal, then got traded to New York, signed an extension on that contract, and then signed a new contract with the Yankees.
Yep. Oh, I actually know a professional wrestler. I went to school with him in junior high and a little bit of high school. But and their contracts are crap. I mean, they're actually under the NFL, I think, in far as guarantees.
Well, and this is where professional wrestling is more sports entertainment, and that's where it's often its own area of fucked upness.
Yeah.
But by the major professional sports in the US, we're talking Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, the NFL.
NASCAR actually has better deals than the NFL for their drivers.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting the sponsors part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at just the team contracts there. I mean, that's the thing. The NFL contracts are really such at will
Mhm.
that it might as well not even be a contract.
And to think they struck twice to get the free agency that they have, and they went
And
on.
it's still shit.
Oh no, that was just to get free agency. We're not even talking about what now. The last lockout / strike, was to try and get better deals for the veteran players and not the rookie contracts, because those rookie contracts were getting out of control. Was it Sam Bradford was the last one
Brett,
that
didn't he sign for something like a $50 million contract
Yeah,
yeah.
it was ridiculous.
out of college?
It was ridiculous. I think that's why they started structuring the contracts now.
Yeah, that's
Draft for your first the first round draft pick or whatever. Or
yeah,
not,
they're slotted. So first round, they are slotted by where in the draft order you are. From
what the maximum can be, right?
Yeah, so from the second round on, it's you were drafted in this round. This is your cap.
Yep. And the first rounders have a 5th-year option that the teams can invoke too. So even though your rookie contract, I won't say is 100% guaranteed, because they're not, but the odds are if you're a good enough player to be drafted in the first round, more than likely you're going to play out at least your rookie deal. That being said, that doesn't mean the team has to pick up your 5th-year option, which many of these players seem to bank on, is that they're going to get that 5th-year extension. And it's just, yeah, it's mind-blowing how crappy it is, because I feel for the players, but at the same time I also understand the business risk from the owner's perspective too.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that when we talk about sports contracts in general, people don't realize the risk inherent. I'm surprised hockey doesn't do contracts similarly to the NFL.
Well, so hockey has a lot of movement in their contracts, especially the entry level deals. So that's where what would be a rookie deal in the other leagues is an entry level deal with the NHL players. And that's where you can get movement to where it is not a guaranteed NHL contract. They start with what's called a two-way contract, which means they're either going to be playing for the NHL team or down at the AHL, ECHL level, the minor leagues. And they are a cheap contract where they pretty much get shuffled back and forth either way, where you're making the league minimum up at the NHL level and then whatever the contract tag is down in the minor league level.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives them time to evaluate and grow the player to warrant a full-time NHL position. Because keep in mind, including the 2 goalies that you have to dress for a game, you are only dressing another 8
or 10 players, right?
3 forwards per line, 4 lines, so you have 12 there, plus the 6 defensemen is the typical setup. So there's your 18, plus your 2 goalies. You're dressing 20. Your active roster, 23. And here's another thing: your prospects who are on the entry level deal, the team really has to weigh the options. Are we going to have them up at the NHL club, but have them be a healthy scratch sitting up in the skybox just watching the game? Or do we want them down in the minors actually playing?
Yeah, and that's the thing that NFL just never got into, and I really wish they did. But it's hard for them to have competitive leagues during the season, because their seasons are so short. I would love to see, like some not very popular places have a minor league setup, like a triple A and a double A at least, where you can farm out some of these kids, but because especially running backs, they have a finite lifetime,
No. Yeah, well, and that's where some people saw NFL Europe as technically that, but at the same time, going back to the NHL, they have a really weird draft setup too. So say you are a player and you're a prospect, you get drafted. You don't have to sign with the team that year.
Mhm.
The team retains your rights for up to 4 years. So like say you're drafted, but you decide I'm not going to sign an entry level deal. I'm going to go play in college. The team has your college career to sign you to an entry level deal. Or if they don't, they lose your rights and you are a free agent.
Yeah, NFL Europa was quite the joke, but it did actually get a few players into the NFL that probably would never have made it. Jim Miller for the Chicago Bears and Pittsburgh Steelers and
Yeah.
Patriots. He probably would not have made as long of a career that he had he not gone and played. I think Joe Jurevicius was another one, from
He
from
played
that
a
time period.
year. He played a year or two over in Europe.
Quite a
Kurt
few players.
Warner.
Yeah,
Kurt Warner did.
But I mean,
He also played in the Arena Football League too.
Yeah, which is what helped with the what is it,
The greatest
this
show
show
on
on
turf.
turf. Yeah, and the fact that he almost recreated that in Arizona with Larry Fitzgerald and that team, you know, that's crazy. But when it comes to kind of circling back, my question about the trans athletes issue is not so much whether they can or shouldn't be able to participate with cisgendered people. Is like Jared said, we don't have enough data on the subject at all. How do we know that even though they're taking all of these hormones to lower their testosterone, lower the various levels of other things, is it really affecting the muscle mass? Is it affecting the way that the muscles are working? That's really the biggest question that I have, is if we can prove one way or another that it's either has the effect or doesn't.
Yeah,
I'd be
my
willing.
point is that they just would rather care about the feelings right now and say, well, let's ignore the scientific data, the scientific tests that need to happen. Let's just force this upon people and then say, deal with it for right now. And I pulled up an article right here, and I just want to read a little bit. I'm not going to really.
Oh, those two, yeah.
Oh, you could see, yeah. So it said
Yeah.
on here that okay. All right, let's go here. It says Miller and Yearwood they're biological males that are competing in the women's division because they're in the transgender process, I guess. But listen to what they said. They said in that interview, Miller argued that female runners should work harder rather than complaining about unfairness when forced to compete against male athletes who identify as transgender. I don't think that's fair for the women. I think that's a completely unfair statement towards telling women, hey, you want to compete with us, just work harder, quit bitching.
Exactly, and that's the thing, is a lot of
I wasn't, just stop complaining.
well, yeah, I mean that's the thing, is when people bring up that story as it's kind of a rebuttal to the case against rationality rules, they're like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. These people aren't just doing it because they have a better chance of winning, getting scholarships for colleges. We don't know what their intent is. We don't know what their actual intent is.
I don't think that's the case, right?
I don't think it is either, but
yeah, I don't think that they're just going and saying, well, shit, how can we just win something? That would be disingenuous to say that. I think that they do. Obviously, they see it the same way we see it. Either they aren't critical thinkers, or they can see it, at least from this point of view, they can understand that somebody else may have this point of view on it. So I just, in my opinion, like, okay, here's the quote from the woman. From the girl, we all know the outcome of the race before it even starts. It's demoralizing. I fully support and am happy for these athletes for being true to themselves. They should have the right to express themselves in school, but athletics have always had extra rules to keep the competition fair. Just like you guys were talking, you can't really be in college and also be a professional athlete and then go back and compete against college athletes. There's set up against that, so that way you can keep the college athletics a competitive arena. and still have some designation from just 35-year-old ex-pros.
I mean, that's why the Olympics for the longest time was about amateur athletes, not professional athletes. It's not.
Okay, with that still being that way.
I mean, when they first allowed the professional basketball players to play in the 92 Olympics, 92 Olympics with the Dream Team.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Oh, in basketball they got demolished, but what happened? Not the next Olympics, but from the second one after and on, the U.S. was no longer guaranteed to steamroll everyone.
Exactly, because it forced the other countries to basically create their own professional athletes to be able to compete with these people, and that's why we have so many. I hate to sound like I'm xenophobic here, but that's why we have so many foreign nationals that play professional sports here, especially basketball, in the U.S. That's why we have so many, Northern European people playing professional hockey here in the NHL. Is because the competitive advantage, or the competitive, not advantage, but the competitive practices helps them hone their craft, hone their game to get better. And when it comes time for for hockey, the Winter Olympics, you have those professional athletes. Some of them will take time off from the NHL to go represent their country. And
I know how to fix the problem. Just give them all participation trophies and declare no winners.
Oh, hell no.
That's the only, I'm telling you, listen, that's the only way to solve all this. And it's pathetic because unless somebody has to eventually admit, yes, I'm letting my emotions get in the way. Yes, I understand it. Yes, I need to stop looking at it from the victim personality of, oh my God, they just don't want me to compete. No, we want you to compete. We just want the competition to be fair.
Or as close to fair as possible.
Right. That's the purpose of fairness is to eliminate all other factors except for the person competing with the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to eliminate a lot of that's why we don't allow steroids in sports. It's because it gives an unfair advantage. It takes away from the integrity of the sport to give somebody that advantage. It's not about what steroids are bad for people, because they issue people steroids in medicine all the time. So there is medical use for it. But the thing is even if a professional athlete has a disease that requires him to have a steroid injection, and it's a fucking banned substance, well, guess what? He can't compete because it gives him an unfair advantage. Whether he had that for medical reasons or not, he just can't compete. That's the purpose of the rules. Gotta have rules set in place.
The Kitsune Cavalier, I believe your straw man may be right. Is competition good or bad for society as a whole? I say it's good, because it forces us to improve the society. We didn't get to the technological age that we are by not having competition.
Right. That's the unfortunate thing about capitalism, is that while it does beget greed, it also begets competition and innovation and the strive to put out a better product, a more useful product. It's how we get better. It's what makes us want to get better.
That's how we had people like Billy Mays promoting everything under the sun.
Right. But yeah, so there is no perfect system. So we just have to figure out something, though. We have to tell the people, look, this is the way it's going to be. I'm sorry that you may not like it, but this is the way it's going to be, and stick to that way until it needs to be changed. But right now, this is there's just a lot happening without a lot of people doing a lot of research into it, and everybody's just kind of everybody doesn't want to be labeled the villain. That's what bothers me the most. Is it goes with YouTube also. You don't want to be labeled the villain. The DMCA is perfect example. Someone files a DMCA. What does YouTube do? They automatically take it down. Now, they have new policies right now, but let's say back when Daniel Pratt filed mine, they do not want any responsibility in that. They say, look, this guy said it's his video. We're taking it down whether it's his or not. You want to say it's not? Okay, tell us. Okay, great. We're going to reinstate it. Now we've accounted for both of you. Now you both have an argument with each other, because your arguments are not, whether you want to look at it from Daniel Pratt or you want to look at it from my point of view, neither one of them had happened. Like, YouTube did what it was supposed to do. I submitted the counter. They gave him a chance to submit his court claim to say that he was going, that it was really his. He didn't do it. Okay, they're done. Their hands are washed clean. But they're just so concerned with not being in the wrong that they just took down my video, even though they were in the wrong by taking it down.
The Kitsune Cavalier, no, we don't have to stay with the systems that got us here, though. No, we shouldn't go back to practices of slavery and genocide of the natives. But that doesn't mean that we have to kowtow to every little thing that happened in the past that wasn't us. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that my family never owned slaves, because I don't know. I might have actually had family members that were here early on in the colonies that owned slaves. But that was them. That wasn't me owning the slaves. Why should I be responsible for that?
Well, the argument is that, you know, slavery was at one time considered a socially acceptable. You know, there's probably people that owned slaves that knew it was wrong, but it was socially acceptable. So they just, nobody ever said anything about it.
George Washington's one of those examples. When he died, he had Martha free the slaves.
Well, then
whether she did or not, that's entirely another thing. But that's what he wrote in his will.
Right, but then we came to a general consensus that, guys, look, slavery's bad. We don't need to ever, not just don't need to ever engage in this again, but we need to also set world policies that say that if we see a country engaging in slavery acts, we need to step in and do something about it, because that's a morally reprehensible thing to do, to say one person owns another person. That's just that's what we've come up with as a society to say, or to believe in. And we will hardly ever go back to that. But what I'm saying is, like, we've had these rules. Competition has been set in there to try to maintain the fairness in sports. And now we're getting to a point where something new is coming out, right? And the people that are in the sports positions, like let's say the Connecticut high school sports, right? They have to rule. They have to make a decision on whether to let these athletes compete as women or force them to compete as men. Mm-hmm. Now, they would rather not be the bad guy and be the ones that go, nope, we denied the trans people their right to compete with the women. They would rather not be those people. Mm-hmm. But who are they? But at the expense of who?
It is literally going right back to the intersectionality argument, is that we want to be a free and just society. And we've been trying to desegregate since we ended slavery here in the U.S. We finally started getting that in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now we're slowly reverting back to that by having intersectionality take over. You know, by categorizing people into so many different subcategories.
That's right.
You're segregating.
You're secluding them from everybody else. That's exactly right. That is my biggest argument with intersectionality, is that there is no way, like, all you're doing is you're trimming the fat. You're trimming more and more fat off of what you consider the oppressed group. Let's say you're like, my argument on this was the Taylor Swift thing. Let's look from the feminist point of view. There was a time when they were all feminists. They were all fighting this. They're all third wave feminists, of course, but they're all fighting this male hierarchy and patriarchy and whatever the words they want to use. They're all fighting that. But then they realize that not all feminists are as oppressed as other feminists. And why should we be arguing for the feminists or the women who are not oppressed? So then they start trimming the fat, intersectionality. So now you have feminists, but now you have white feminists versus black feminists or Hispanic feminists. And then you go, oh, well, then you have right feminists versus left feminists. So then you trim the fat a little bit more. Now, who's not the feminist there?
Exactly.
Right? They're trimming people out of the group. They're trimming out one at a time. And now look what they're doing, until you're going to get left with one person. And why? Because that person is so fucking unique that there's not another fucking person on the goddamn planet that feels the way they do about everything that's being said. So that's what intersectionality does. It takes you down to that one person who ultimately has such a unique perspective on the world that they're in a bubble by themselves.
I mean, if you look at some of the studies that are coming out just about, sex and reproduction in the younger generations, it's going way down. I mean, there are many men, women, I call them kids, but they're not really kids. They're in their 20s, mid to late 20s, that aren't having sex on a regular basis with their partners. And, that's their choice. That's fine. But yet when you hear about, if you ever watch Daisy Cousins videos,
I'm picking up the slack, just so you know.
Some of us have to.
Yep. She had a video 5 days ago called "Leftism is Making Young Women Miserable," and she compared, how on the left side of politics, they're miserable because they're not being able to express themselves without fear of hurting somebody's feelings, and yet on the right side of politics, the conservative side, you see them having more love and care for each other because they're developing a relationship. They're not just going after the tail,
Well, I find myself in dead center. I try to stay out of politics because there is no right answer. There's only right answers on things that you come to the conclusion as a complete society that are morally reprehensible, like slavery. That's the only thing that you're going to find a definitive answer on that we can all agree on. And there's still going to be people out there that don't agree with that. But that's fine. They're in such the statistical minority that they're a non-statistic. Yeah, they're a non-statistic at that point. So, but when it comes to something like this, the country is divided. These are not non-statistical demographics you're talking about. These are significant portions of our society that are arguing about things that we have no, like Jared said, we don't have the data. We don't have the studies out yet to determine whether this is, beneficial or harmful to society. We just don't want to be the bad guy. And because we don't want to be the bad guy, because we don't want to be called the Nazi, because we don't want to be called the racist, because we don't want to be called this, the homophobic, the transphobic, we withhold what we believe to be best, to be right for society, not for my personal beliefs, not for your beliefs, for what's best for society. Look at it from that point of view. You'll start realizing how insignificant your feelings are.
Yeah. The only time I tend to hold back on my opinion when I'm speaking is when I'm at work. And because I'm on the clock, I'm representing my employer. My opinions don't matter at that point. I'm there to do a job, and that's what I'm there to do.
Well, and all right, hey guys, I got to get going.
I got to get going too soon, so I was going to wrap it up.
It's like such an impromptu thing. I wasn't even prepared for this. I hope I didn't sound too transphobic, homophobic, womenophobic, menophobic, Legophobic.
I'm Legophobic.
Wait. I thought that would be Lego phallic.
But I'm sure that everything I said is going to get twisted in one way or another. And that's fine. I stand behind what I say because I say these things because I believe in them. I truly try to see it from what's best for society. I think that every man, woman, and child on this fucking face of this planet deserves the same rights. Okay, there should be nothing about you should give you any more rights than me. And nothing about me should give me any more rights than you. Unless you're a woman. If you're a woman, you got reproductive issues. If you're mentally handicapped, for instance, you got to have more rights for people that have needs that I'll never understand. I don't understand women's rights, that the need for why they need certain things. I'm not a woman. I'm not a doctor. I'm just some guy. So for me to go out and speak about what women should and should not have and should be able to say and not be able to say, or should be able to vote, not be able to, that's not my place, nor is it really anybody's place to say stuff like that. So, all right, guys, both of you guys know I love you guys. I will catch you later. And I hope I didn't piss off anybody in chat. Hey, 1 minute debunk. I'm sorry if I was acting an ass earlier. No willful intentions there, bud. All right, you guys take it easy.
You too. Jared, you want to say your bit and get out? Might as well do it Red style here, I guess.
It's one of those. While it was a little more planned on our end, I do enjoy how it went. No, we're not always going to agree across the board, but at least we can have the discussion without it denigrating to any sort of needless, childish behavior, which I absolutely love the fact that we can have the conversation and just that, stay on point and have the conversation. That is exactly what I think more people need to be able to do. Put your ego aside and actually legitimately listen to the people you are trying to talk to. And that advice goes to everyone on all sides of all questions. Stop being pathetic freaking children and actually listen to each other.
Could not have said that any better myself. So I just want to conclude with the whole topic of this was really supposed to be about the YouTube Vox adpocalypse. And even though we went off on the tangent of sports and stuff, the fact that we were able to talk about it, even though we did say some things to each other, like Team Skeptic said, 1 minute debunking him had a tip, but the fact that the conversation was still flowing, that's what we need to have in society. That's the thing that intersectionality is trying to rip from us. That's the type of thing that Vox is trying to rip from us through the YouTube demonetization and the changing of the rules. It's not, you can't have a conversation if the conversation is one-sided. If you're not going to hear all the viewpoints, and that's what we need to have. You don't have to agree with the person's ideas. We sit here and try to have conversations with the flat earthers, and the conversations generally end up in a shouting match at some points. But time and time again, those people keep interacting. Why? Because they're having a conversation. They're trying to hear each other's sides out. When it comes to politics, it's hard because, like Team Skeptic said, it is an area that there is no right or wrong answer. It is just dealing with what's best for society. As the Kitsune Cavalier said, should we be going back and considering slavery and genocide of Native Americans or even natives in populated or not unpopulated, uninhabited areas by modern humans? No, we shouldn't be doing that. That's why we have areas where there are indigenous people that we're not allowed to go to. And what ends up happening when we do? People get killed, namely the person who's trying to enter their space. But as I monologue here a little longer than I intended, I hope that if you guys, the ones that stayed to listen, if you'll subscribe if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate that. My politics, I try to approach from a centrist point. I don't always get all the right information, but I'm willing to be corrected and I'm willing to have that conversation. And if you're willing to have the conversation, I'd appreciate it. All right. You guys have a good one. Take care.